InfoWars. Tomorrow's news today.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the War Room. I'm your host, Harrison Smith, coming to you live this Tuesday afternoon. Glad you're all here with me. I have an absolutely gigantic show for you today. We're going to be joined in studio by Stuart Rhodes. We'll give him 5 minutes to come over from the Alex Jones studio, but he will be joining us, and we'll continue the conversation he was just having with Alex about everything going on. We'll talk about, of course, it's Veterans Day today, so happy Veterans Day to all the veterans out there. We got a lot of stuff to talk about with Stuart Rhodes, constitutional expert. How do we deal with the situation that we're in without burning the Constitution as a whole? Then in the second hour, we'll be joined by Rasmussen. We're going to be talking about the latest sentiments from Gen Z. They're sort of fed up with MAGA. They're sort of fed up with everything, actually, and they have some very simple concerns that are going unaddressed, and so they are being disheartened and disillusioned in the political process. Can't wait to break that down with him. And then in the third hour, we'll be joined by Seamus from Freedom Tunes to, again, talk about his new show, as well as just everything going on in the world, just absolutely jam-packed with guests. The problem is my producer, Scott, is out of town, so I'm doing all the booking, and I'm terrible at it. So yesterday we had no guests. Today we have 3 guests. I don't know what I'm doing, but it's going to be great. It's going to be fantastic. We're going to have a lot of good conversations. But let's begin today, as we do every day, with our Daily Dispatch. All right, here it is, folks, your Daily Dispatch for Tuesday, the 11th of November, 2025. Senate passes bill to end government shutdown, sending it to the House. On Monday night, the U.S. Senate approved a spending package in a vote of 60 to 40 to fund the government through January 30th, 2026, and sent it to the House of Representatives and President Donald Trump. Beginning on October 1st, 2025, the shutdown left hundreds of thousands of federal employees furloughed or working without pay, causing nearly 7 weeks of stalemate until a group of defecting senators advanced a deal. And the Democrats basically got nothing from this. Well, we can return to this in just a little bit, but the nightmare is over, folks. The nightmare is over. Don't worry. All of the dependents will be taken care of. Meanwhile, last night, Berkeley descended into a war zone as violent protests erupted outside of a TPUSA event. The lead up to a Turning Point USA event on Monday night at UC Berkeley was filled with violence and mayhem as aggressive protesters banged against barriers, set off a smoke grenade, and screamed at attendees waiting in line as law enforcement worked to keep things from spiraling into uncontrolled chaos. I don't know how much they succeeded in that. We'll show you the videos. It was pretty horrific. And again, it is a really concerning thing that the Trump administration has not done enough. In fact, I've only seen one person from the Trump administration even respond to what happened at UC Berkeley last night. And it was very tepid, kind of like, hey, wait, they're not supposed to let this happen. We already sued them for this in 2017. We'll look into it. When really the response should have been, this is unacceptable. Everybody there is being arrested this week. I mean, it's really too much at this point to allow these domestic terrorist organizations to openly flaunt the domestic terror designation that Trump saddled them with a little over a month ago. October 8th was that big summit where he declared them domestic terrorists. They are still acting with impunity, as well as there's other stories directly in line with that. Mexican illegal arrested for shooting at Border Patrol agents in Chicago. A man in a Jeep fled the scene after firing 5 to 7 rounds at immigration agents during a mob attack in the Windy City on Saturday morning. That story is at InfoWarsStore.com. And yes, the violence is increasing against Border Patrol with the encouragement of a lot of these local leaders in the Democratic Party. Meanwhile, U.S. aircraft carrier moves into Latin American region. Officials say the U.S. aircraft carrier Gerald R. Ford has entered the Latin American region, according to 2 U.S. officials reporting to Reuters. This move escalates military presence in the Caribbean and increases tensions with Venezuela. We'll return to that in just a little bit. But finally, we have this. FBI Director Kash Patel's girlfriend sues podcaster Elijah Schaffer for $5 million over a wordless retweet accusing her of being an Israeli spy. Now, I never accused her of being an Israeli spy. All I said was that she has all the hallmarks of an Israeli spy. See, I'm taking the FBI out. See, they didn't call Hunter Biden's laptop Russian disinformation. They just said it has all the hallmarks of it. You have to learn these weaselly ways of talking if you want to avoid being sued. We'll return to that as well. It's completely ridiculous. Total attack on free speech. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is The War Room. I'm your host, Harrison Smith, coming to you live on Infowars.com/show, band.video, of course, streaming on X and anywhere else they let us. Thank you so much for being here with us. I'm in studio with the one and only Stuart Rhodes. Stuart, how are you, sir?
Good to go, brother. How you doing?
I'm very good. Very good to see you, as always. And I was watching you and Alex's conversation, and we can sort of pick it up there. But what's on your mind these days? I mean, what are you concerned about? What are you paying attention to in the news?
What I'm paying attention to is what I think is the dumpster fire of the current Trump administration, in particular Kash Patel, but also Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche. I really think they need to be rooted out and fired. So it's becoming obvious that Kash Patel is probably compromised. I can't explain. I don't know what else to say to explain this.
Careful now, careful. Don't give any details of how he's compromised. You might end up with a $5 million lawsuit.
Yeah, I'm not going to do that. But I'm just saying he's acting like a person that's been compromised.
No, I completely agree.
So yeah, and whatever his excuse or reason for failing to do his duty, he should be fired. I mean, today's Veterans Day. We're honoring everyone's ever served this country, and we should be square one on. If you're not going to fight against the domestic enemies of the Constitution, then you're not keeping your oath to the Constitution, you should be fired. I don't care what your excuse is.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. And it is, again, deja vu, because we literally went through this with Trump in the first administration, which is like, how do you not learn your lesson, dude? You've got to get the right people. And if they're not the right people, get them out. I mean, It really is stunning how subversive the DOJ is still being. I mean, with the way that they tried to run out the clock with James Comey, and it turned out the dude was a family friend of the Comeys, and he waited until 5 days before the statute of limitations. Trump has to bring in his personal lawyer. She gets the indictment in 5 days. The other guy took 9 months and was acting like he couldn't get it. I mean, that is treason as far as I'm concerned. He was given an order. He pretended to follow it, but all in service of covering up for James Comey. How do you let that happen? And the guy's not even fired. He's been removed from that case, but he's still there.
Right. It's the problem. It's just like he had Bill Barr on to the very end, just weeks before J6, he was still there. Same pattern now with Pam Bondi. Yeah. And you can say, well, she's just, somehow making a mistake. But I think you have to just assume the worst, that she's doing this on purpose. And same goes for Kash Patel and Bongino.
It's almost confirmed that it's on purpose, because look at what happened at UC Berkeley last night with Antifa just going absolutely insane. And we can play some of those videos as
it's deja vu. It's deja vu all over again, because it's the same exact thing we saw in 2017 when President Trump was first inaugurated. Yep. We saw the same kind of thing down there in free speech rallies attempted on the Berkeley campus for a speaker. I think it was Milo Yiannopoulos.
In 2013.
Right. And so they were attacked so severely that his security detail pulled him out of there, and they canceled the event. And that's why we responded after that and started going down to Berkeley to the downtown park and Martin Luther King Park, and protecting Trump supporters in the park. Yeah. You can't do a whole lot on the Berkeley campus, but you can do a lot in the park. So.
Yeah, well, and to me, the frustrating thing is it was October 8th that they had all of these, reporters and journalists, people from InfoWars, there talking about Antifa. He declared it a domestic terror group. So it's like, okay, you can't say you don't know what's going on. You can't say you don't know what to do here. It's like they know what we want. They know what they should be doing, so they sort of act like it, kind of like the binders with the Epstein release. It's like, okay, they know we want Epstein information, so it's like they think they can pretend to give us information and we'll be okay with it. They can pretend to, go after Antifa and we'll accept that. They have to actually do things.
Yeah, exactly. So following up his declaration that they're a terrorist organization, which really doesn't have a whole lot of legal framework around it. If they're an international terrorist organization, that's more powerful.
Right.
So that's what he should have called them.
Well, and I know that's what people were advocating for, because they are an international organization.
They are. What he should do is direct the U.S. government to go after them, DHS, FBI, et cetera, back to Patel. How come there are not arrests of this what happened last night at the Berkeley campus? It's not just, a civil disturbance. It's an attack on the free speech rights of American citizens.
Exactly.
And he should invoke the Insurrection Act, I think, and just put the National Guard in there right away.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. And yeah, it's a conspiracy against rights. I mean, it's the heckler's veto. And again, we did settle this in 2017 when they were doing this with having the Proud Boys or Oath Keepers form up to fight back against the attacks that we were under.
Why would we have to do that? I mean, this is during the first Trump administration. There's a failure of the Trump administration to protect American civil rights by stepping in. When you have local law enforcement obeying stand-down orders to not protect Americans against attack by terrorists who are, using lethal force, hitting you in the head with a club, like a bike rack or a bike lock, is lethal force.
And they let that guy go.
So that happened across the country, and that happened during the entire Trump administration. So we stepped in, Oath Keepers and Proud Boys and other groups all joined together and protected people. But it's frustrating. We shouldn't have to do that. Yeah. I'm happy to do it, but what should be happening is he should be using his power as commander-in-chief and the President of the United States to get in there and protect Americans' rights. Yeah. The Insurrection Act is very clear that whenever the president determines on his own that a state or local official is not protecting the American people's rights or is directly violating their rights, he can step in using the National Guard for sure, and even the national military.
Yeah,
and he should.
And it's like whether it's the militia or the National Guard or the other, it's like, okay, there's a fire, we've got a fire hose and we've got a, fire extinguisher, and it's like, you can use any of them, just you have to use one of them at least, and instead we have all these weapons, all these tools to deploy, and none of them are being deployed.
And I believe it's probably happening, it's very much the same thing happened the first time. Oh, you can't do that, or it'll hurt you in the midterms, it'll hurt Republicans. Not doing what he promised to do and not going after the bad guys is what's going to hurt them in the midterms.
Yeah.
Because his own base will just be despondent and stay home. And even worse than that, the people who are the walkaway Democrats or the independents out there that voted for President Trump because they trusted him to do this are not going to vote for his, the weak candidates the GOP is putting out. Yeah. I mean, none of them are anywhere near Trump's class as far as being seen as a populist warrior in the eyes of the people. Very few of them. So without him following through and urging them, this is how I need them to help me in this fight. If the people don't believe you're sincere, you're actually going to follow through on your campaign promises, they'll just stay home. Yeah. And you can yell and scream all you want. And you can have the neocons and the establishment rhinos, yelling and screaming at us, the base, saying it's your fault that the Democrats won. No, it's your fault for running crap candidates, and two, for distracting President Trump and running the clock out on him.
Yeah, no, it's like in Peanuts. You can only run up to kick the football and have it pulled away so many times before you go, no, I'm not running up to the football.
I mean, imagine what an average Trump supporter, whether they're a walkaway Democrat or independent, who said, okay, I'm going to go ahead and pull the lever for President Trump.
Right.
I believe Joe Rogan's correct. I believe Tulsi Gabbard and Robert Kennedy Jr., they all joined President Trump for a reason. He stood up like a stud at Butler. He acted like a warrior that day.
Right.
That's why it's tattooed on my friggin' arm.
Right.
But imagine that voter now looking around and going, he's not doing anything he said he was going to do when it came to the deep state.
Right.
When it comes to like the Epstein files, when it comes to going after the bad guys who stole our election. We all know it was stolen.
Right.
They pulled that coup. How come none of them being held to account? Let alone the ones who are all over us as J6ers and putting us in prison on trumped up false charges for political purposes. Right. Every bit as illegitimate as all the charges against President Trump. Why aren't they being indicted? So, of course, we were first told, oh, it takes time to investigate. Well, now it's 10 months in.
Right.
That's not washing anymore. And, of course, you still have the Q-tards out there saying, oh, trust the plan. It's fifth dimension chess and all this kind of nonsense. But most of your independent voters who matter in this country a great deal, they're going to stay home.
Yeah.
Because they feel like, well, I trusted Trump and I voted for him because I believed he's going to follow through and go after the bad guys. Even he is not doing that. So what's the point in voting for any of these lukewarm, weenie Republicans you're putting up there as being the solution?
Yeah. And it's almost worse than that. It's worse to do half measures that don't solve the problem but pisses your enemies off than either not doing anything or going all the way and actually defeating your enemy. All he's doing so far as I can tell, is like kind of poking the bear. And if he doesn't, actually disenfranchise these people, actually solidify his control and the Republicans' control and actually do things with it, then the Democrats are going to take over and it's going to be vengeance time for them because they're convinced that Trump's a Nazi and he's, pulling babies away from their parents. So they're fired up with this hatred. They are ready and willing and practically advertising their intent to throw everybody that ever helped Trump in jail. And yet he's not doing enough. It's like, the man got shot in the face. What am I supposed to say to convince him this is the real deal? This is what's so crazy to me is like whether it's the Republicans or Trump, it's like it's your own ass that's going to be thrown into jail if you don't do things right. Why do I have to try to convince you?
Right. Yeah, fair point. So that brings people to start doubting him and wondering if he's made a deal.
Right.
Does he no longer care about the rest of us? Has he made some kind of a separate deal with him and his family? I hear that all the time. The kind of chatter's flying around now because they're trying to explain the failure to take it to the enemy.
Yeah. So
I'm going to give him the benefit of a doubt and assume that he still loves this country. I think he does, and still wants them taken down. He goes, you'll see it in his own tweets. Yeah. He'll say, this is ridiculous. Like after the 274 FBI agents were disclosed by a member of Congress, not by Kash Patel,
right,
but a member of Congress on the staff, just exposes it, right, and says, hey, this is what's going on. President Trump's first response to that was obviously they weren't there for any legitimate purpose. They were there as part of the Fedsurrection, and he called it right. But then you got Kash Patel coming in afterwards and saying, "Oh no, they were just mishandled. They were misused for riot control that day." So he's playing hide the ball and cover up for explaining it away. He's carrying the water for the deep state. So President Trump should turn right around and fire him. His failure to do that is like, okay, you know what you want to have done. You say it on your tweets, just like in the first administration. You'd say, this should be done, and then it wouldn't get done. And it's like, well, we're waiting for you to make them do it.
Yeah.
And if they won't do it, fire them. So that's where
Simple as that.
It's nut cutting time, to put it in a cowboy parlance.
Right.
It's time for President Trump to fire these people, and he can do that on his own. And he can do, like I was talking with Alex a little while ago, he could use a recess appointment. He can wait until Congress is out for, like, over the Christmas break, fire them and put somebody else in as a recess appointment. Yeah. Not have to worry about that person being removed. I forgot how long it takes for a recess appointment to be termed out.
Well, it's frustrating because, going to something like Berkeley. I see Berkeley and I see the way that Antifa is attacking. Let's go to some of these as just B-roll. I mean, you can just go to, clip 13 here, clip 14, just roll these as B-roll, keep the audio down. But like I see these and I'm like, here's this mob of rioting communist jackasses, I mean, literal traitors to this country, physically assaulting people, attacking people, intimidating mothers with their children. And I'm sitting here going, all right, that's their militia. Where's our militia? Where, we need our own group to show up. And then I'm like, no, wait, the cops are our militia. The government is that's supposed to be our team. That's supposed to be who is defending America against these communists, against the agitators, against the rabble rousers. Right. It's like that's supposed to be our team. Those are supposed to be our guys protecting us. And if Antifa wants to array itself as enemies against us, then they should have to contend with our power structure. That's the point of our government. It's supposed to be the guys we've appointed to take care of things like this, and yet they've been co-opted and are now serving the enemy.
Well, you have local police going back to, we've had this conversation before, the founders did not trust standing armies because they know a professional military man will go along with orders to preserve his career. The same is true for a professional law enforcement guy. He's under tremendous pressure to go along, like stand down and not protect people in Berkeley, for example, because he's worried about losing his job. How's he going to keep a roof over his head of his family? So the genius of the founders was to say that the trust should be in the people themselves as the militia. And so the actual force that should be deployed in Berkeley and other places is the militia, which includes the National Guard, but also includes the rest of us as the militia. And you can start with the veterans. We're trained. We can say, look, guys, I want my trained veterans. I'm calling you up as part of the militia to go and assist the National Guard because there's not enough National Guardsmen. When it came right down to it, if you're facing a nationwide insurrection by the left, by their, the Red-Green Alliance with the radical jihadists, with Trendy Agua and all this stuff, now you got Latin kings and they're going to kill ICE agents. That's an obvious insurrection. He should use not just the National Guard, but the rest of us and start with the veterans first. I'll go. Until he's 64, I'm liable to being called up. I'll take it.
Yeah. So would I. And that was something that you told me about that I'd never known before. Just the idea of the militia, it just sort of means men of military age. Like, it's not this distinct thing separate from the American people. It's just a different way of describing a portion.
It is us, the people.
Right.
So still to this day in federal statutes, it's every able-bodied male from 17 to 45 and veterans until age 64 can be called up by the president as the militia, and no one can stop him, especially when he puts it squarely within his powers under the Insurrection Act. An invasion, check. An insurrection, check. Direct resistance with force against federal lobbying and force, check. He's got everything he needs to justify it. And when he does that, I think he got to tell, if it's some federal district judge, some lowly district judge tries to tell him he can't do it, he should tell him to go stuff it.
Yeah.
And they can go to the Supreme Court and see if the Supreme Court will tell him to stop it. But until then, he has a responsibility as a commander-in-chief to protect us from invasion. Once again, check, it's happening, and from insurrection, and to protect the rights of the American people.
Yeah, because we don't have to put up with this. Like, we don't have to be attacked. We don't have to be victims. We're desperate for the government and the lawful authorities to come in and constitutionally deal with what we're dealing with, because if they don't, then we have to defend ourselves, and that's where it gets crazy and out of control.
That's what happened.
That's what I want to avoid.
That's like deja vu all over again, because for 4 years of the first Trump administration, it fell to groups like Oath Keepers and Proud Boys and other groups that stepped up and did that. We filled the vacuum, and we shouldn't have to. Right. We're happy to if that's what's what it takes. But he should be doing it under his authority. Yeah. And in the same thing with all of us, we're happy to, of course, if you give us orders to deploy, we'll go do it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's how we got in trouble in D.C., right? We said, hey, if the White House is attacked and you need us, President Trump, we're willing and able to step in. And that was kind of a mind F against Antifa, too.
Right.
That to worry about us. I was worried about a Benghazi-style stand-down. But they used that against us at trial. Oh, look, they had a QRF ready to respond to attack the Capitol. It's like, no, to defend the White House if the president called us up. But he has absolute authority to call us up, and he should.
Yeah.
Not just to protect himself in the White House, but also to go and protect the rights of the American people across the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And there are just so many things I'm thinking of right now. Not to jump back and forth, but going back to the thing about the deep state and trying to root this out, and they're not even separate, right? This is all intertwined. His failure to go after Antifa in any substantial way, and his failure to go after the deep state. I mean, these things are sort of one and the same. Yeah. And when you look at what happened with Comey, and you had this guy, like, if you want to talk about QAnon, it disproves QAnon, because the guy he put in charge of going after Comey was going, I don't know if I can get an indictment.
Put the clock out on statute of limitations.
Yeah, and it's like, even to this day, they're still acting like, well, he didn't think they could get an indictment. And it's like, okay, well, Trump's personal lawyer, who's never done this before, got the indictment in 5 days. So that's bullshit that he didn't think he could get it. They got it in 5 days. It took 9 months.
That's not 5D chess.
Right.
That's not trust the plan.
Just trusting morons and traitors.
Well, that's President Trump delegating to people that don't deserve the delegation.
Right.
He's delegating his responsibilities to people that are dropping the ball on purpose.
Yeah.
That's why he has to purge them, and he can.
And it's like, I mean, to me, this isn't even a political thing. Like, this is like life or death. Like, I am a right-wing commentator. You are a right-wing personality. Which one of us is going to be killed next? Because obviously, killing Charlie Kirk was one of the greatest moves the left ever did. They've suffered nothing from it. They have divided the right afterwards. Now Antifa is even, more angry and is staging these riots like they haven't done since 2017. Right. So it's like, when they killed Charlie Kirk, we're saying it like the day after. It's like, now you have to crush these people. You have to go in, arrest 1,000 of them, and teach them so that every one of them goes, gee, killing Charlie Kirk sure was a stupid idea. I'm in jail now. Gee, killing Charlie Kirk was not a smart move. Let's not assassinate anybody else. The lesson they've learned is you can assassinate Charlie Kirk and get nothing but good things from it.
Well, what I don't want, though, is I don't want to see UK-style hate speech laws in this country. Right. And so we're seeing that false choice also being presented. Oh, the only way to stop this is this. In the wake of Charlie Kirk's assassination, you had Pam Bondi saying, bizarrely, it's like, oh, well, the anti-Semitism on our college campuses is indefensible.
But she literally said hate speech is not free speech.
Right.
And which is like, what the hell is, what?
Yeah.
What? Have you not been paying attention to politics for the last 10 years? That's crazy.
That's opening the door. That's opening the door to what's going on in the UK right now.
Yep.
But it's also vindicating what was done to us J6ers.
Right.
They used our speech against us and put us in prison for our speech.
Yeah.
That's what they were really doing. And so we don't want to go down that road.
Right.
But you focus on their actions, though. If they actually do something that's actual plot to violate someone's rights with force, that's not protected speech.
Right.
Now, if they want to call you whatever, they can be as anti-Semitic or whatever they want to say. That's protected speech.
Right.
And we have to be firmly and securely in protection of that.
Right.
Whether I like it or not.
Well, 100%. And just again, so how do we do that? How do we, round up Antifa without violating the Constitution or
focus on their
precedent?
actions. You focus on their actions.
Yeah.
And when they're attacking people in the streets to shut down their free speech, when they're telling you they're going to do it, no Nazis welcome here, and basically saying we're going to use. Basically, they just openly declare it. We're not going to let you speak. When they announce that and show up, and they're taking a physical action by showing up and threatening you, that crosses the line.
Yeah.
So that actually meets the standard in Brandenburg of an imminent incitement for imminent unlawful action.
Yeah.
You're saying go forth and beat that person up, punch a Nazi in the face.
Right. So it's not we're saying, hey, they illegally went after you and threw you in jail, even though you never even went in the Capitol and told people not to. We're not saying, hey, they did it to us, so we're going to do it to them. It's like they threw innocent people in prison. We want to throw guilty people in prison. It's actually completely different, but we can use the same strategies, the same tactics they did. It's just ours will actually have the legal backing and lawful authority behind it.
Well, it's a different strategy. We're going after actual crimes.
Well, right.
Yeah, actually, I get what you're saying. Right. We should be aggressive against them, and it's the best way. It's like punching a bully in the nose.
Right.
If you don't do that, all you do is build up, build up, build up. He'll feel like he can go further and further and further.
Right.
So if you're not, in the wake of him declaring Antifa a terrorist organization, to not go in there and drop the hammer on them and arrest them is sending a signal that it's just all hot air.
Yeah.
And hey, we got a carte blanche, get out of jail free card in our city like Portland or Berkeley. No, the local officials won't do anything to stop them. And if the feds won't do it either, what do they have to fear?
Right.
And in the end, only the American veteran and bikers and Proud Boys.
And it needs it needs to be done.
In other words, the only thing they could fear is getting their asses kicked in the street.
Right. And that has to be done through something like the Insurrection Act, because of course they don't even have to fear that, because they know that if anybody attacks them, those same authorities that let the Antifa rioters out of prison will throw that person in jail for 50 years on terrorism charges. So, they're protected from any vigilante justice as well, because these cities are so biased.
We were successful in Berkeley and Portland and other places like that, even though they're leftist dominated cities, because we were very, because they're very tight, rein on our guys, and we didn't use force. We didn't have to.
Right.
Now,
just your presence was
enough. Our presence was enough, because Antifa doesn't want to get their asses kicked.
Right. Because they're actually all
or get
pussies.
shot.
Like they're all complete cowards.
Yeah. When you have whether it's Proud Boys or bikers, like Bikers for Trump or 3%ers or Oath Keepers, they don't want to mess with actual men that are competent. They just don't. So that was our experience. Now that might have changed. It could be that now they've become so radicalized that they'll try to use force, a sniper attack or whatever against us. So there's always a possibility that if you use force against them, then yes, you'll be persecuted. So, but I'm willing to take that shot. I'm willing to take even though I've gone to prison for nothing. Right. I'm willing to put myself at risk if I have to, because I have an oath.
Right.
Goes back.
Yeah, and
back to that. It really does.
And again, it's just the frustration of like,
I'm not going to stand by while women and children are being attacked by Antifas. Put it that way. No
and why? So why is Trump not able just to give these orders and see them follow through? Is it really just these, like, there's 3 people around him that just don't do what he wants? Like,
he's surrounded by people that are giving him bad advice again, and their intent, I believe, is to distract him and run the clock out again, just like the first time. It's a repeat of the first administration.
I mean, we're 1 year from the midterm elections, right? This time next year, it's not unlikely that the Senate and the Congress perhaps have flipped to Democrats. And like, what is it? It's November 11th. Yeah, maybe by November 11th, 2026, there will be impeachment, already on the table. There'll already be, I mean, I saw a thing today, insiders saying that the Senate Democrats are like getting ready. They're like already pre-filing the lawsuits and the criminal charges against Trump's administration. So it's like, again, it's like they are going to send you to prison if you don't do this. So do I have to convince you to do it? They should be the ones convincing you.
We have to convince them to do it.
It's crazy.
So I really do think we need a mass rally outside the White House, urging President Trump to focus on the bad guys and bring them to account, and first to fire the obvious blocks inside of his own administration.
Fire Pam Bondi.
Pam Bondi, Blanche, Patel, and Bongino too. Sad to say.
I think that's not a bad idea. I think that's really not a bad idea.
Yeah.
And we have to not be cowed into silence because of what happened on January 6th. We still have a right to protest. We should use that. Let's talk about that on the other side. We'll be right back, folks. Short commercial break. We'll be back with Stuart Rhodes on the other side. Don't go anywhere. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is The War Room, folks. It's Veterans Day, and we have an incredibly special offer for you at thealexjonesstore.com. If you get the Shilajit gummies, they're buy one, get one free. Plus, you get a free hat. And it is a very cool hat. It's the blacked out InfoWars hat. There it is right there. TheAlexJonesStore.com. Buy one, get one free on Ultramethylene Blue. And you get the free hat. Buy any bottle of Shilajit gummies and get another bottle free, plus a free InfoWars hat in every single order. This is really an unprecedented sale for us. It's a loss leader, meaning that we're selling it for actually as much or less than we pay for it. So we're not even making money on this, but we want to deck you out in the awesome hat. It's InfoWars. The InfoWars blacked out hat, yours free with the order of Shilajit. Plus, you get another bottle of the Shilajit gummies. Every order on the Alex Jones store will receive that free InfoWars hat while supplies last. This offer ends Thursday, November 13th. Visit thealexjonesstore.com today. Fuel your body, mind, and power the InfoWar. And look good while you do it. So that's one bottle of Shilajit gummies and another one free when you go to thealexjonesstore.com. Go to thealexjonesstore.com/Harrison. If you want to let them know who sent you, keep us on the air and power our evolution into our next phase of the operation, which will commence very shortly. I'm here in studio with Stuart Rhodes talking about this idea of a protest in D.C., not against Trump, but for Trump, to Trump. How would you phrase this? We want to protest to get a message to Trump. What should that message be? I feel like it should just be one thing.
Encourage him to fire Bondi and Patel, and then closely Todd Blanche and Bongino.
So the fire Cash and Pam rally.
At least that. I mean, Bongino, maybe give him a chance to do better work under a new director. Who knows? But But for sure, Bongino, Patel and Bondi got to go.
Yeah, I mean,
and Blanche.
We're sort of just speculating, but like, what do you think is behind this? Because we all saw it at the beginning of the administration. Kash Patel goes from being this firebrand, we're going to burn, we're going to turn the building into a museum and everything will be released on day one. And then it's like he goes in a week later, he does an interview where he's just like, Epstein killed himself and everything is fine and the FBI is good. And it's like, what did they do to you? I mean, what do you think they're doing to them? Are they attaching electrodes to them in the back room? Are they mind wiping them? Is Kash Patel in a locker somewhere and this is a clone? I mean, I'm just...
of the body snatchers?
Yeah, what is the explanation?
I think Joe Biggs called it. I think that they threw files down in front of them and said, here's what we have on you.
That's right.
That's
everything you've ever done in your life.
Right. So that's what I'm supposing.
Yeah.
That sounds credible. But how do they? It's either a threat, or it's blackmail, or it's bribery. Those are the three ways you influence people to do what you want.
Or a combination of both.
But whatever that, or a combination of both, of all those. But whatever it is, if you're not doing your job, the honorable thing to do is to step down.
Right.
You can go away. Just don't have to say why.
Or just tell us the truth.
That's even more honorable. Yeah.
Right.
Blow it up. Say, hey, they threatened me. Here are my skeletons. This is what I've done in my past. I'm still a good guy. I want to do the right thing. That's why I'm telling you what happened.
It's the Dave Letterman playbook. Do you remember that when he had an extramarital affair and the person was trying to blackmail him? So he just went on a show and said, everybody, I'm being blackmailed. I'm being extorted. Let me tell you what happened.
There you go. Yeah.
And everybody went, you're good, Dave. Don't cheat on your wife, but thank you for telling us the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, we would love
that's what matters more.
Right.
Well, look at President Trump. No one cares about his past with women and all the things he's done in his life as a celebrity with all the groupies around him. No one cares about that. Grab him by the whatever. No one cares. They care about whether or not he's going to do what he said he's going to do.
Yeah.
That's what we trust him to do.
Yeah.
And same goes for Patel. Whatever his excuse is, I don't want to hear it.
Right.
Hey, Patel, go walk in Arlington Cemetery. Look at all those gravestones. And remember what they did, what they gave for this country, and stop being a bitch.
Yeah.
And do your job.
Well, I wonder if it's not even a threat to them, if it's a threat to like everybody, because it reminded me of when, sports players, a basketball player or something, he'll make an offhanded comment where he'll go, nah, I'm not doing that gay crap. And then it'll be like this firestorm. And he goes from saying, I'm not, actually, let me rephrase that, because actually sometimes they'll come out and they'll go, I'm refusing to do this. I'm a Christian. I don't want to go along with this. And then it's like the next day they're going, I'd like to apologize for anybody I hurt and I will work to be better in the future. And I know how that works. They go to that person and they go, look, this is really bad. And it's not just you, but there's 300 people that work for this organization and they're going to lose their jobs and their families are going to suffer because you want to take a stand. We know you believe that. We appreciate your views, but is this really what you want to do to your friends?
Right.
And they go, God damn, all right, I'm going to go apologize so my best friend doesn't lose his job. I mean, imagine that, but times a million when they go, hey, if this gets exposed, they're going to set off a nuke in New York City. Do you really want to expose it? You really want to go on this crusade when 10 million people will die? You want that on your conscience?
Or they'll crash the economy or whatever the threat
exactly.
is. So, but here's the thing. You don't negotiate with terrorists.
Right.
And you take the fight to them. Yeah. So, like, imagine World War II. Oh, Hitler said that if you go fight against him or the Emperor of Japan, that they're going to come hunt down your family. Well, what's the answer to that? Go kick their ass.
Yeah.
So you don't negotiate with terrorists. You don't let yourself be browbeat. And also, you go back to your oath. You raise your right hand. All of them did. Every single one of them. Bongino, Patel, all of them raised their right hand and said, I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Period.
Yeah.
The American people expect you, and they put you in that position to follow through on that pledge, on that oath. If you're not going to do it, step down.
And it's not an option. Like, this is required. Like, what do they not understand about what happens next? If the Democrats get back in charge, America cannot survive another 40 million illegal immigrants. And they can't survive the 40 million that arrived in the last 4 years being all given citizenship by the back door, through some act of Congress once the Democrats take over. Like, do they not realize that if they don't do it now, it is literally the end of America?
And you will all wind up in prison or in a camp or in a ditch. That's what's going to happen.
They're worried about their families being threatened. Guess who's threatening your family? Chuck Schumer and AOC and Gavin Newsom. They are going to throw your family in prison or let them be killed by riotous mobs. Like, again, it's like, why do we have to explain
look at the history of every communist regime, whether it's from Lenin to Stalin or it's Pol Pot or Mao in China, they all end the same way. It always ends in mass murder.
Right.
That's where it ends.
And they all start the same way, and it's exactly how it's starting right now. It's with these groups causing trouble, agitating. It starts this snowball effect. We've been reporting on this idea that every union in the country is all going to go on strike at the same time in 2028, and they have this plan to totally freeze the economy of America in order to make demands for free healthcare and all this other stuff. And it's like, okay, if you study history, this is the run-up to the Bolshevik Revolution. This is the run-up to the German Communist Revolution of 1918, I think. Like, these things happen in a sort of pattern, and we're sitting here watching the pattern take place, going, we know where this ends. Can we intercede before it gets there?
It's even worse in a way because they won't have to overthrow the Trump administration. All they got to do is distract him and run the clock out, and they come back into power like they did under Biden, whether by hook or by crook. They come back into power. They impeach him after the midterms. He'll probably be impeached. Put him on the defensive again. Run the clock out. They come back into power. Now they have all the power of the state and their street gangs and all their flunkies and all their fifth generation warfare style tactics in the street. They got it all combined.
And they're not shy about what
You'll have Antifa being your local cops, for example.
Yeah, and as some people like in Portland are already experiencing what that's like, with the cops working hand in hand with Antifa.
Yep.
Yeah, and again, it's like it's so simple, it's so easy. This is why it feels crazy. Is again with the fire metaphor, it's like I have to get up here every day and go, guys, the fire is still raging. Throw water on it. Can we please throw water on the fire? And it's like every day I have to suggest the same incredibly simple and obvious solution to this, and just nobody's doing it. Nobody's doing anything, and it's driving the youth away from the right wing. I mean, I think what's happening in the Republican Party right now is very deliberate. I think it's happening because of the Zionist right, and it's if we go along with it, we go along with the Ben Shapiros and the Mark Levins, it is the death knell of the Republican Party, which in turn is the death knell of America. So that's why I'm talking about the MAGA Civil War so much, is because it's like if the other side wins, that's the youth vote gone. They go to the socialists, and electoral prospects in the future are just not just dismal; they're non-existent for Republicans.
Yeah, and it all kind of ties together because the same people that are upset about the Trump administration, not stopping the influence by a foreign government, through AIPAC, among our congressmen and turning a blind eye to that. They're upset about that. But they're also upset about the fact that he turned on his heels and went back on his campaign promises about the Epstein matter.
Right. And
that ties right back to Israel, too, through Mossad and the CIA.
Yep.
So I think it's impossible for him to have the same kind of base of support that he had in 2024 for the midterms. I mean, first of all, a lot of those candidates are horrible candidates already. Unfortunately, he's endorsed a lot of terrible candidates.
Right.
He's not listening to the base when it comes to who to endorse. So he's already making that mistake. And so a lot of people won't vote for these people because they're disgusting candidates.
Right.
But even the ones who be like, hey, we have to do this because President Trump is otherwise going to be fighting against the Congress again. Well, how do you go and convince someone that voted for President Trump and that now they feel like they were betrayed by him? They're not going to show up at the polls.
Right.
You can yell and scream all you want. It's not going to matter.
Yeah, and especially, I mean, I think everybody that supports Trump has suffered to some degree. Obviously, you've suffered probably more than just about anybody else. Obviously, InfoWars has suffered, very greatly, not as much as you, but a lot more than most people. But even just the average person out there may have lost friendships, may have, found it more difficult to get a job or whatever. And it's like we go through all of this. We suffer through the Democratic insanity. We fight like hell. We get him elected, and then it's like all of the rewards, all of the victory, loot goes to Israel, and we get nothing. And so it's like it's not even that Israel's that bad of a thing. If he was doing everything for Israel and America was kicking ass and Antifa was being rounded up and deportations were at 2 million by this point, I wouldn't care what he was doing with Israel. It's the fact that so much attention goes to that, and we're sitting here going, well, we're the ones that elected you, dude. Why aren't you helping us first? And then you can deal with Israel. I don't want anything bad to happen to Israel.
It might be
that combination of these two things.
Well, it might even be a play by the deep state to intentionally divide the right.
I think it is.
Yeah. So they like the fact that we're now attacking each other over that.
Sure they do.
Over that issue.
They're giddy over it. I saw.
I know people on both sides. I know people that are radical. They're like fundamentalist Christians, really good people, but they just believe that we have a duty as Christians to support Israel, and they're not going to change their minds.
Right.
It's a religious conviction. And so there's those people. Then you got people on the other side who are like, hey, I don't want AIPAC buying our congressman.
Yeah.
And that's where I'm at. I'm America first, not any other country first.
Right.
But I don't have to be. I'm still a Christian, but I don't have to support. Most of the Israeli government are friggin' atheists or communists. So they're playing the Christians like they're playing a fiddle.
Yeah.
They can just get blind support by American Christians to support Israel, and they think that the government of Israel is the same as the people of Israel.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, so that's the play, and so this only helps them.
Yeah.
So I would hope we can get away from focused on Israel so much, and focus on taking down the deep state. But hey, AIPAC buying our congressman is part of that problem.
Yeah, just like Epstein's, part of it as well. And the difference is that if you're going to divide MAGA into like the Israel first and America first, it's like I'm not defined by Israel. I'm not defined by my opposition to Israel. I'm America first, and wanting to decouple from Israel is just part and parcel with that. But in the same way that I don't want to be out offshoring stuff to China, right. I don't want to be opening our borders to Mexico. It's just these are all America first policies.
That was also Ron Paul's policies too.
100%.
He would get flack from the hardcore Zionists because he's like, hey, I don't think it's constitutional for us to be doing this. Where's that in Article 1, Section 8? And how's that our interest? Once again, precursor of America First.
Yeah.
So in America First, predated Donald Trump.
Right.
Just be blunt about that. It came from Barry Goldwater. It came through Reagan. It came through Ron Paul. It came through the Tea Party.
I think Charles Lindbergh had an America First party in the 40s. Yeah, it's been a thing for a while.
So it's been a thing for a very long time. It's just being an American. Of course, you want your own country to be taken care of first, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the opposition to that has really distracted us and thrown a wrench in the works. Again, ever since Charlie Kirk got murdered, I mean, that seems to be sort of the turning point, not to, no pun intended, but, clearly the youth are rebelling at this point. And we're going to have on Rasmussen Reports, polling. And so I have all these examples, but, it's just, they're mostly Gen Z, but like this is the sentiment, right? I voted straight Republican ticket in 2012, 14, 16, 18, 2020, 22, and 24. If I gave you my name, you could look it up, but I'm never going to vote Republican again. He's got this picture of all of his MAGA hats, but people are disillusioned. They're disheartened. They go, you know what? I gave it my all. I've been betrayed. I'll never fall for it again.
What's his big hot button issue? What is it?
I'm not sure with this person. Yeah, I'm done with any pro-Israel politician. You're right. I didn't even get to that sentence. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's that. There's the Epstein files. You're gonna now brush under the rug all these pedophiles. We know they did it, and you're gonna brush it all under the rug. You're not gonna go after them, and then you're not gonna go after the ones who stole the election in 2020.
Right. And
you're not gonna go after the ones who persecuted LSJ6ers. So in other words, you're not gonna keep any campaign promise. That's what the sentiment is out there.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that we can give President Trump some tough love and say, President Trump, you're destroying your own MAGA movement as far as its effectiveness, because you're going to lose the support of all those walkaway Democrats and independents who voted for you. You'll have some hardcores who'll be like, we have no choice but to keep voting Republican. But the ones who voted Republican for that purpose, they're like that guy. They're going to walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's endorsing Lindsey Graham, and he's, talking crap about Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's just like, what is going on? We're not even a year in, and it's just gone completely
Thomas
off the
Massey's the closest thing to Ron Paul you've got in the U.S. Congress.
He's the closest thing to Thomas Jefferson we've got in the U.S. Congress at this point.
Yeah, and well, back in the day, Ron Paul was the closest thing to Thomas Jefferson.
Exactly, yeah.
And Massey now has that crown, and deserves it.
Yeah.
He's good. He's a staunch constitutionalist. I don't agree with him on everything. I think he's made a few missteps, but I think in about 99%. Just like Ron.
Yeah, it's just that's the guy you're going to go after.
He's real.
Exactly. Yeah. And he's not bought out.
Paid by. He's not bought and paid for by anybody. No one owns him. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And again, it just seems like so many of the things that we're concerned about are coming from the right wing now. Like they're coming from the Trump administration, whether it's the hate speech crap that we're hearing about or the surveillance that's going on. I mean, I don't like the war in Venezuela. I don't like that they're blowing up these boats. They're drug dealers maybe, but what they're doing is setting the precedent for the American government to declare you're a terrorist. We don't even know your name, but because you're here, you're a terrorist and deserve death. And I'm worried about that coming to America. Or
that already came to America.
Yeah.
I mean, we already have within the books, like the NDA of 2012, legislated and codified the absolute authority of any president to declare anyone, including an American citizen, an unlawful combatant in the war on terror.
Right.
And what they don't say out loud is that would also mean the ability to use lethal force because you're not walking around in a uniform, recognizable at a distance, not carrying your arms openly, not in a recognized chain of command. You're an unlawful combatant.
Right. So
they can just kill you. And they did joint strikes against American citizens abroad, including Alawaki's teenage son, who's an American citizen.
Yep.
So I'm saying the precedent's been set. Hasn't been done here at home, a drone strike against an American citizen here at home yet. But all the legal groundwork has been laid already. So.
Yeah, and that's what, and I actually have, Ron Paul himself who wrote this article, right? Ron Paul, congressional Republicans must stand up to the president on Venezuela. Again, I got no love for Venezuela, but it's like, did I even hear the word Venezuela during the campaign? I mean, I heard about Tren de Aragua. I want them kicked out, but like, it wasn't like a campaign promise where he's going, and I will go to war with Venezuela. It sort of came out of nowhere for me.
One legitimate issue is Venezuela is a proxy for communist China.
Right.
They are using them like they use the cartels. I think it's right to declare the international cartels military enemies of the United States. I think it's right to consider Venezuela a military enemy of the United States. And you can have defense, and you can have interdiction on the open seas against the killer fentanyl coming into our country. I don't know if you can justify military action inside Venezuela without a declaration of war by the U.S. Congress.
Yeah, I just think it's. I think there's a smarter way to do it, and so it makes me question, why are they doing it this way? Like, it seems to me like once you blow up like 3 boats, the rest of the boats will probably surrender, right? It's like from then on, probably all you need to do is spotlight them and go jump in the water, abandon your boat, or we blow you up.
I don't really have a whole lot of sympathy for the boats and the crews, and there probably are bad guys bringing fentanyl in the United States.
I just worry about the precedents that's saying.
Yeah,
but
I understand that. That's the problem. Is that it's easy to advocate for something that will then later on have unintended consequences. We saw this out of the war on terror the entire time.
Well, and when it comes to somebody like Thomas Massie, I can disagree with him on a certain issue, but I don't question his motive. I might just go, he's just. He's up front. He stands on principle. And even if I think those principles should be bent here, I disagree with him here, I understand where he's coming from. It doesn't seem like what the Trump administration is doing is standing on principle, or it's something that, they believe in and can articulate well. It just seems like kind of arbitrary. We're just doing this now and that here, and we're doing this over there. And it's like, where's the cohesive vision of how we get back on track? It just seems all kind of haphazard to me.
Here's one big problem is that he can't get a congressional declaration of war against Venezuela because Venezuela is an open proxy for communist China. He can't get that declaration of war because how many members of Congress are bought out by communist China or the drug cartels? So by not exposing them, this goes back to his power to declassify and expose. He's not exposing the corruption inside of our own government and purging them out. And like Doge Congress, for crying out loud. And Doge them all. Go find out all their dirt. And they've done a little bit on some of the real estate stuff, but not enough against all the graft and all the corruption. But go declassify and expose all of that. Take them all down. Then you can have a new Congress that will hopefully be made up of people that actually will do the right thing and follow their oath. And then you can talk about a declaration of war against an actual hostile foreign nation. So you're not going to get it. And so he's in this weird place now. It's like, well, he has to do what he can. I can understand why he would think this. He has to do what he can as commander-in-chief with his duty to protect the American people. He can't rely on Congress, and he won't get it through Congress. I don't believe a declaration of war against any of these nations would ever get passed through Congress. So, I mean, I'm an advocate of him in Mexico just saying Mexico's a failed narco state. We're going to go 30 miles deep into Mexico. We're not declaring war on the Mexican people or the Mexican government. We're taking the fight to the cartels that are killing our people. Sex trafficking children across our border.
I would honestly,
the rescue mission.
I'd kind of be more in favor of that because I see Mexico as I don't know, a bigger threat than Venezuela. Maybe I don't know the details, but obviously they are a completely failed narco state.
Like we were talking about in the break, China has these flotillas,
fishing fleets.
Right?
Yeah, I got video of that. If we want to roll that as B-roll.
Yeah, so China is infiltrating the Western Hemisphere, and they're using this is their 5th generation of warfare. That's very real.
Yeah,
they're leveraging their influence around Latin America to basically try to take over our southern flank.
Yeah, and this is. It's just sort of symbolic for me of in the video that we're seeing. I mean, it's lights as far as the eye can see. It's these Chinese fishing fleets. They're just off the coast of Argentina. This is the Argentinian military sort of doing a flyby of them. But it's like, okay, I can just picture the USS aircraft carrier and the Gerald Ford going right by the fishing fleet that's killing every fish in the ocean to go bomb some, drug dealers. And it's like, well, wait, I think that's a bigger deal. This seems like a bigger deal. It seems like this is directly China doing this. It just seems like there's a lot of stuff right now where it's like he's not dealing with what I perceive as a real big problem. And instead we're going, spending so much time and effort on these problems I don't think are existential. And it's just this total mismatch. Yeah, so there's a problem there where he's probably being advised by political advisors, like, talk tough, like declaring that the Antifa to be a terrorist organization,
declaring all the cartels to be terrorist organizations, but don't actually take the fight to them. That seems to be the pattern. Except for a few select boats that you're just smoking.
Which again, it's like that's worse than doing nothing. It's worse because you're just kicking the hornet's nest and you're not spraying the hornet's nest with Raid. Like what, you got to do one or the other. You can't just go halfway. We're almost out of time. What are you doing now? Oh, we didn't even talk about it. You've restarted Oath Keepers.
That's right. So oathkeepers.info, folks can go there, and we're relaunching the organization. If folks want to join, I don't have electronic payments online yet. They can go to givesendgo.com/oath to support our rebuild. But on the website's an address they can mail a check in if they want to join. But more importantly, I want all veterans out there to take responsibility for their defense of the Constitution.
Yeah.
Whether you join Oath Keepers or not, just the message itself, loyalty to the Constitution. We need to spread that message among the current serving and veterans. But we will, once we rebuild, we will once again be in the streets because we probably have no choice. We protect the American people because we have our oath responsibilities against Antifa. Even though I went to prison for doing the right thing on J6, we were there to do security. I'm not letting that stop me. So because I went through the mill and I was willing to sacrifice myself if I had to. We have to have that mindset that we're going to do the right thing, even if it's going to cost us personally.
Wow.
We have veterans around the country who lost limbs. I'm not comparing myself to them. I'm just saying that in my own way, I did my own fight too. So I understand what it's like to pay a price, but we all have to be willing to pay that price and do the right thing. It takes courage to be an Oath Keeper. But if you don't have that courage or you don't feel like you're right for that, that's fine. But then at least support us.
Support the guys that do. So oathkeepers.info and give us the
givesendgo.com/oath. Make a donation to support what we're doing. Right.
And of course, they do disaster response. You were there with the Texas Hill Country flood. We interviewed you about that, providing on the ground first aid and stuff like that. And education, teaching classes. And we'll be doing a lot of classes on local community strengthening, standing up a neighborhood watch with teeth, armed neighborhood watch, church security teams, community response. And really, I want to see a focus of all of us veterans and the men in general on the threat of the terrorist attacks that are coming. We need to organize. We're going to call that the Strong County Project. That's one more thing we're going to launch within Oath Keepers coming right up. Well, that's great, and it's got to happen before the event, right? It's not like some big terrorist attack and you go, oh, we better get organized. No, you got to have this stuff pre-staged, so when the inevitable occurs, you know where to go and who to talk to, and you have your lines of communication set up. It's sophisticated stuff, folks. Oathkeepers.info or givesendgo/oath. Thank you so much for being with us, Stuart. Bye, brother. God bless. As always. All right, we'll be right back, folks. Don't go anywhere. Short break. Second hour begins in 2 minutes. All right, folks, welcome back. Second hour of the War Room is on. I will be joined very shortly by Rasmussen Reports, Mark Mitchell. We'll talk about a little event that he had that I don't know if this is an annual thing he does or what, where he opens up his DMs and just asks for people to, send in their thoughts about the current state of the world. Rasmussen, of course, one of the highest profile, most well-respected polling outlets, just giving people sort of the temperature of the water in the minds of people of all sorts of demographics. And what he came out with was incredibly interesting information. Very excited to talk to him about the future of political support, especially when it comes to Gen Z. But I want to go to this video from our friend of the show, InfoWars alumni, Savannah Hernandez, clip 10 here. She was on the ground at UC Berkeley. I actually talked to her today. She's actually going to come in studio tomorrow with us, talk about her experience there. But I was saying, I'm glad you're safe. I'm glad you got out of there. And she was like, we had no idea it was going to be like this. So it was totally unexpected, totally wild and insane and dangerous and violent. Here's Savannah Hernandez on the campus of UC Berkeley yesterday reporting on the chaos that Antifa called at this TPUSA event.
This is Savannah Hernandez at UC Berkeley at the TPUSA Out of the Bay protest. Now, it is about 7 p.m. at this point, but this has been going on since 4:30, and my friends, it has been absolute chaos. Now, at the beginning of the night, you quickly had 2 people that were arrested. One person was a Trump supporter, another was an Antifa member, and as the Trump supporter was getting arrested, he stated that the Antifa member came and tried to steal his stuff, resulting in the altercation. Now, that happened fairly quickly at the beginning of the protest, and everything just evolved since then. Now, this is actually the entrance to the TPUSA event tonight, and the attendee line actually stretched out this way, and it kind of stretched into this area so people could get into this conference center behind me. Now, what ended up happening is this huge swarm of protesters, many of which which are trans members, some of them are furries, and of course, many Antifa members and Antifa-aligned groups. They all ended up swarming those attendees. Now, one of the Antifa members actually lit off a flare, smoke started going everywhere, and then another protester drove past in his vehicle. It started backfiring multiple times. It kind of sounded like gunshots. I could see the visible fear in many of the attendees' eyes, and they all started swarming into this area. Now, police quickly led them past these barriers to, essentially protect them and help with their safety, because the mob then quickly started descending on these barriers. Now, they have multiple times tried to break this area down and break these barriers down, and they have been chanting all night, calling attendees of this event fascists, Nazis, anti-Semites. They've been calling them every single name in the book, while simultaneously saying that Nazis need to be killed. Now, they have also been mocking the death of Charlie Kirk, and I have seen several signs tonight glorifying and celebrating Charlie's death. So that is the protest in attendance tonight. Those are the people inside. You even had people chanting, F your homie is dead, referring to Charlie Kirk. So that's an idea of how chaotic it has been out here at UC Davis. The next challenge is going to be how attendees now leave this event, as this entrance is completely blocked with very aggressive protesters.
So there you go. That's Savannah Hernandez reporting on the TPUSA event that was mobbed by Antifa rioters yesterday. Multiple people arrested, including one Trump supporter that was viciously attacked while trying to sell merchandise. He also got arrested, apparently, for being attacked. I guess that's the reason he was assaulted. But the violence just continues to spiral out of control in America, whether it's coming from the illegal aliens, the literal foreign invasion that is firing on Border Patrol, or Antifa being completely unbowed and, in fact, seemingly inspired and, fired up over the lack of action from the Trump administration. And again, it really does terrify me, because I can just imagine, maybe a couple months, maybe next year, some TPUSA event, gunshot goes off, one of their speakers goes down, another prominent Republican chess piece taken off the board. Because why not? Because why wouldn't they? It worked really well with Charlie Kirk. He was a force of nature. He was really a powerful political force that they eliminated. They don't have to argue with him. They don't have to worry about him. They just had to kill him. Wonder who they're going to kill next, because they got no reason not to. It's worked out very well so far. All right, welcome back, folks. This is The War Room, Infowars.com. You support us by going to thealexjonesstore.com. We have a Veterans Day special that is really something you're going to want to take advantage of. It's really probably one of the best sales we've ever had. If you buy the Shilajit gummies, you get one free, and you get a free hat. Shilajit gummies, buy one, get one free, plus a free hat that is very stylish. One of my favorite hats, the black on black InfoWars trucker style hat, absolutely free with any order. But if you get the Shilajit gummies, you get another bottle absolutely free. Of course, the Shilajit gummies, in case you don't know, increase cellular energy, testosterone support, mental clarity. It's a libido booster as well. And every order on the Alex Jones store will receive a free InfoWars hat. Massive sale ends tomorrow. Do not wait. Take advantage of it now. TheAlexJonesStore.com/Harrison if you want to let them know who sent you. Now, with that, I'm very happy to welcome my guest, Mark Mitchell, at Honest Pollster on X, the website RasmussenReports.com, one of the most well-respected polling outlets in existence right now. Welcome to the show, sir.
Yeah, really great to be here. Thanks so much.
Oh, it's my pleasure to have you. And I had to get you on because you did an event last night, I guess. You opened up your DMs and you asked people to send you what they were thinking. Can you tell us what was this last night? Because I got a whole stack here of things that you've posted, the DMs that you got, of people expressing mostly their discontent with the way specifically the Trump administration is handling things. What are all these DMs from? What did you do last night?
Well, you can look at public opinion a couple of ways. I can sample all of the nation, but it's really hard to ask very specific questions of every person. So you ask everybody one question and add it up and see what the number is. And things like, hey, do you want more or less economic populism? And everybody's like more, like 70% of them. But then sometimes it's important to know what a few individual people say, like a focus group. And what I found is that I have my finger on the pulse of where the politics of America is going right now. And it is not going towards conservatism.
Right.
Conservatism has basically become the luxury value set that DC Republicans love to convince themselves will win hearts and minds finally this time. And everybody knows after we see zero action out of the Republican Party that it's basically just a grift job, just a donor harvesting operation, basically. Well, what do the youth want? What happens is when Trump wins an election, he convinces a higher proportion of the under 40 vote to turn out for him than we've ever seen before. All of the Republicans say, oh, look at us, we're so great. We just, we won the youth vote because Republicans are great. And it's like, no, these people are not conservative and they hate you. Right. They only voted for Trump to give him a chance of fixing America, and you're screwing it up. And so I look at these people, even the ones that say they support Trump are overwhelmingly supporting socialist policies. And, that's wild. That's new. These people want major industries nationalized. They want excess wealth distribution. They just want America fixed, and they don't care how it's done. And so I think there's this aspect of Trump support that really gets overlooked, which has been like young, angry online men that have been the butt of American society. And these people are not reading William F. Buckley. They want a strong man. They want things fixed. And unfortunately, they've been around for 10 years. They haven't really seen a lot of stuff get fixed. And now all of a sudden, it's like, well, Trump came in. He was wrecking the government. Everybody loved it. And then that stopped. And what happened? Well, probably the uniparty killed Doge. Donald Trump was getting a 60% approval rating of under 40 voters. That's just like insane. That's literally nutso. And now where is it? It's 35%. And who do those people like now? They like Mamdani. So you have this core voter, though, and like the keyboard warriors and the 4chan folks and all these people have always been there, and they've always been a pariah. And I come out and explain to the society that they don't want Republicans. They just want you to fix things. And these people are important. And what do I get? I got 300 DMs of people from like mostly Gen Z, but some millennials who are like, listen, I gave Republicans a chance. I'm so demoralized. And some of these are just brutal. I'll just read one. I'll join the club here. Completely done with MAGA and Trump. The federal government could freeze assets of illegals tomorrow and self-deportations would go through the roof. Yep. Confiscate houses, cars, accounts, etc. We would need a fraction of the people. We would only need a fraction of the people of ICE if you were to do that. There's so much low-hanging fruit. Cancel H-1Bs. Stop with this 100,000 complex nonsense fee. It's not going to work. Arrest a CEO or two for keeping their DEI departments active. Charge them with discrimination. Like, why not? All this could be done within a week and would completely change course. I'm 28 years old, and all of my conservative friends are done with Trump as well. Nobody's lives are any better. A complete unforced error. He almost died, and God saved him to give us 50-year mortgages. That's brutal. Where is Trump? Because this isn't him. And it's all the same kind of thing. Like, we have no future. Republicans are fake. I've given Trump 10 years. It's not going to work. The system's beaten him. Over and over and over again. And there's more. I'm getting more. I'm probably going to have to do it tonight too.
Yeah, I printed out probably 50 of the ones that you posted, but they all sort of, most of the ones I've seen sort of follow that same trajectory. In fact, the one I put on top here, I think is sort of the most illustrative, is a guy posting his collection of Make America Great Again hats. He's got like 20 MAGA hats, and he says, I do not intend to vote Republican in 2026. He says, I voted straight Republican ticket in 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, and 24. But then he says, I'm done with any and every pro-Israel politician. So it seems to me like the two issues that the Republicans are absolutely failing on are Israel and the economy. Those seem to be the sticking points, which is why Mamdani is so appealing. And I've made this argument for years now at this point. Obviously, the young people are not happy with the economy for good reason. I mean, we can look at it. The median age of a home buyer in the U.S. is now 61. Okay, so that's like a death knell for an economy, especially for young people. I mean, everything for the economy is dismal and looking worse for the young people. And the conservatives have no answer. They're not even interested in the concerns. They just mock the poverty that their policies have foisted on people. And then you've got the socialists on the other side going, hey, you know those billionaires that are mocking you? Vote for me and I'll take his money and give it to you. Of course they're going to go for that. It doesn't mean that they're right. It means that the Republicans are offering nothing. Right? Am I wrong on that? It seems like Israel and the economy are the two things that the Republicans are just fumbling isn't even a big enough word. Lighting on fire and self-immolating themselves over. Yeah. Maybe better.
Well, there's something very specific about Israel. Let me step back and say that the youth want economic populism. And they don't know what that word means, but they know they've been screwed. And so right now, I think they thought Trump would do that. and they're less convinced of that right now because, quite frankly, like again, the Bill Pulte thing, like dude's a home builder billionaire, and the plan he suggested will objectively increase the prices of housing. So it kind of looks like oligarchy stuff, and I think people are upset with the oligarchy. When they say economy, they don't mean Trump bring down the gas prices. They mean reverse 30 years of wage stagnation and punish these corporatist global homo welfare queens. That's what they want. And that's what USAID was, or Doge was doing that to the government when it cut USAID, when it was going after this stuff. And it completely rolled over, and we're not doing any of it with the corporations. In fact, they look like they're in bed with Trump. So when you look at the left has a more authentic answer. Is it a stupid answer? Yeah.
Right.
The left's answer is we're going to give you a really big, probably $10 trillion homes crisis act. Everybody's going to get a chicken in every pot, and they're going to run out of other people's money, and we'll probably become hyperinflationary or whatever. But that's their plan. The Republicans' plan is, okay, you have to vote for us.
Yep.
Oh, and we're going to take donor money and enrich ourselves, and you're going to get let down. Like, that's the Republican plan. Like, tell me it's not. And everybody can say I'm being histrionic, but we have 359 days until the midterm elections, and Republicans are really going to get beat. You look at last week, and Republicans turned out to vote in New Jersey, but Jack Ciattarelli got blasted away, like 13 points loss. And why is that? Everybody was expecting more. Well, it's because Donald Trump had a lot of support in New Jersey. New Jersey is a Democrat state, like D+10.
Right.
Trump got a lot of Democrats and crossover independents. Those people didn't care. So it wasn't all Israel. Independents were like -6 Trump approval, like back in the middle of the spring. They were at -20 after Epstein. And there was a whole bunch of things at once. It was like, hey, we bombed Iran. The one big beautiful bill kind of sucked. Epstein happened. Everybody got mad. And then it's like, okay, well, Trump's not focusing on the domestic front. He's building this East Wing of the White House. He's doing all these things that just like aren't what we wanted. And then what happened is Trump approval just imploded right before the election. And I think it's a mix of they were fine with the shutdown, but then when snap hit, everybody's like, oh, the Republicans have no plan. They went into this with no strategy. They could have won on the shutdown if they had just applied leverage to the Democrats. They had none. Then Trump's yelling at them to use a nuclear option. They can't. They have 9 votes. And the entire Republican establishment is eating its face off on Twitter about Israel. And so all that together was like, you know what? This party doesn't really care about me. Independent approval of Trump got down to -27. 18 to 29-year-old Trump approval was 35. If the under 40 vote didn't turn out in New Jersey, Jack Ciattarelli might have won. It would have been a lot closer. These people, the young ones, are the ones that want strong action. And you've read them. There's some wild stuff in there. They're like, well, I'm just waiting for my Franco. When will we get Caesar? It's unbelievable. They don't really care. And I honestly believe probably Trump could have gotten away from a public opinion perspective, like back in March, if he had just ignored judges to give people actually what they wanted, because the Democrats are ignoring the Constitution. Like all this pearl clutching about constitutional crises I really don't know how much it matters anymore. People will say it's bad, but they say a lot of things are bad, and then it happens, and they don't really care that much. Then add on top of all this, like the threat of political violence, people are super concerned about that, and it's a complete mess. And I told him about the Israel stuff too. I'm like, there's 2 ways to play this. You could freak out and cancel everybody, or you could just say that it was 2 humans talking on the internet. And if they had done that, they wouldn't have made Nick Fuentes essentially the most influential person on the right now. They did that. This guy's bigger than Ben Shapiro now. And they did that, and they knew it, and they wouldn't stop. And they did it during an election, and they destroyed approval. I just can't. And it's like, I feel like the way we're seeing the stuff come out of the Trump administration, there are just establishment forces that are very used to a status quo. They don't like MAGA. They don't want it. I'm even getting accused now of undermining Trump. I'm an independent. Right. I'm not paid by Trump. I'm independent, and I call out what I see it. And I think he's making mistakes because I don't think he understands the politics in America right now, because I think he's probably hermetically sealed in the White House. If he just went on Twitter, if he just read some of the things that you read, he would know where people are at. And it's it's really like fourth turning stuff. That's the thing that's wild about Israel. So the fourth turning, I'm sure your audience knows, right?
Oh, yeah.
But one of the hallmarks of like the end phase of the fourth turning, the crisis, is that there's a very rapid handover between an old guard and a new guard. And in my opinion, the old guard represents the baby boomer generation, which very over-indexes a lot in government, right? Almost all the people down there, especially Republicans, are boomers, and they have a very cohesive set of shared values. Things like America's a superpower, and we punched Hitler in the nose, and we got to go spread democracy, like those kind of things, right?
Right.
Pay down your mortgage and with the excess income, so you have principal and that kind of stuff, right? Pull yourself up by your bootstraps.
Right.
And the youth, their principle set is, I've been put last. The economy's terrible. I'm sick of corporations. I want all of this stuff rapidly fixed. I hate that you stole society from me.
Right.
And they're going to increasingly split on those issues. And we're seeing it first on Israel. And I don't know why, probably because Trump got involved in Iran and probably because of October 7th. But if you look at the 18 to 29s, we have a question. Do you support Israel or Palestine? More, and the 18 to 29s, only 21% say Israel. The 65 and olders, it's 59. So generationally, these are just two different people. And Israel knows it's a problem. They know they're losing the youth. They're, I have influencers I know who have been approached by both Qatar and Israel. It's a very big political football, like the minds of the youth on the internet. And I think the youth are rebelling against the values of the boomers, which have been very strongly coded to supporting Israel. And again, I'm not making it about Israel. I'm just saying this is going to increasingly happen. I think we're going to see this on NATO. I think we're going to see it on stuff like that. And what happens when all of a sudden we get into a situation with the majority voting bloc in America decides that NATO is not worth it anymore because they need to put us first. Like, we need to work on ourselves. And I think that's overwhelmingly the theme.
Yeah, no, I think you're exactly right. And I think it's really not that complicated, is it? I mean, people want to, try to sort of psychoanalyze what's going on. It's just like, we're being screwed and we don't want to be screwed. Like, it's really not that complicated. Everybody else benefits and we get screwed. We pay for it. They benefit. That's a crappy, setup. So we don't like that anymore, and we're looking for a new one. I mean, is it really as simple as that? And just to tie it all together, I mean, the division with the MAGA right versus the Israeli first. You've got Ben Shapiro coming out with a video yesterday where he's going, if you can't afford to live where you grew up, you have to move. And it's like, screw you, dude. So it's like the Israeli people, it's not even about Israel necessarily. It's like it sort of comes with all these other ideas that are like, hey, everything's the economy. GDP going up, then the economy's good. Too bad you can't afford a house ever, and you can never have children because you can't afford it. Too bad, the stocks are up. And it's like that mindset that is just so alien and frankly offensive to people that are in their real life seeing the discrimination and the suffering of the average young Trump supporter.
Even the idea that the economy is the stock market, in my opinion, is a very boomer-coded thing. Right. My dad loved Alan Greenspan. They all loved retail stock trading. My dad was like, oh, somebody gave me a tip to buy Home Depot. They loved it, and they still talk about it, and they do it. And everybody else can't put food on their table. You mentioned median home buyer age. Well, the first-time home buyer age is 40 now for the first time. That's kind of dark. That means it's like, okay, 18 years you work until you can finally afford a house. And so you just look at the solutions to these problems and you're like, okay, they proposed a 50-year mortgage, and that would be better for the home building industry, the banking industry, and the boomers because it drives up the cost of housing by increasing demand and not supply. What would be the best thing for Zoomers? Well, that would be canceling every H-1B. What would happen? Well, overnight, wages would shoot through the roof. There would be a desperate scramble for people to get hired. So these people would have a lot more money than they did. And, oh, by the way, corporations would have a rough time, so it would probably not be very good for boomer portfolios. But then there would be a rush to sell in housing because all of a sudden there's fewer people in America competing for the same amount of supply of houses. And so the housing market would crash, and that's essentially a generational wealth transfer from the boomers to the Zoomers. Instead, what we have is like the Zoomers are paying ridiculous amounts of health care that's going to subsidize older people's health care. The taxes are going to Medicaid. And when you see the boomers talk about that, they say, hands off my Medicaid. I paid into that. Well, it's like, yeah, but okay. But understand these people aren't going to have that. It's not going to be there for them. They're not going to have Social Security. And so I think that increasingly these two forces are going to be at odds, and people are going to put down their political differences. And it's like, the right needs to be on that playing field. And right now, all I can tell you is it doesn't matter that it's stupid. The idea of Democrat socialism is very appealing to the people under 40, especially if you layer on any AI stuff. They'll be like, okay, UBI, UBI. We're going to have like 3 trillionaires, and then everybody's going to be on UBI. And so if the right wants to fix this, if they really do, they need to examine this now, because the time is running out. It's like 5 or 10 years till all the boomers are dead, right? And really, I say Zoomers, the dividing line is really at like 50 is really where the line is. And it's because of the internet. People are consuming news different, and that's really new for all the boomers in leadership, because they're getting owned. They like the idea that Mark Levin doesn't understand that the internet is telling you that you lost, dude. Like when Nick Fuentes can ratio you 40x in an hour with an account 5 times smaller than yours, and when like Brett Cooper is the face of like pump the brake guys, the internet's telling you lost. And they don't know that. And like, again, if Trump was back on Twitter, I think he wouldn't be making a lot of these mistakes. Weird to say, but like, he was the king of Twitter. This guy knew, like, he understood his followers.
Yeah, and it's weird that he's not back on. He should be back on, and it's just so much of what he does is just like, what is even the strategy behind this? Have you done any polling on like MAGA, Tucker versus Mark Levin? Have you studied that in particular?
So the problem is that so few people watch Mark Levin, and when you ask about people that aren't really well known, the numbers just kind of blur. You get a lot of not sures, and then people are just generally agreeable, so they'll give you weird results. But we did poll about Tucker specifically, and there's like kind of, and again, I'm not taking sides here. I'm just telling everybody what's happening, where the pieces are on the playing field. And
well, I'll tell you why I ask, because I don't know. It seems to me, from my perspective and my algorithm, it seems like everybody in the world is on my side, and then you have like Ben Shapiro, Mark Levin, and whoever else Israel is paying. But it's like a small little cadre of people that get promoted by the algorithm. But I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if that's biased because of my algorithms. That's why I was asking, because I really don't know where the vast majority of people land on this divide.
Yeah, I mean, like, that was a problem for me because my algorithm just feeds me what I interact with, and it's mostly just the Hezbollah folks, and it's toxic. I'm probably a little too autistic, and I actually respond to them and try and like actually give them a chance to argue in good faith, and they like often don't. And I say that like tongue in cheek manner, but there were accounts that showed up 3 weeks ago out of nowhere and just replied to every one of my tweets with retarded stuff. Right. And I don't know what to do with that. But Tucker, like, he had really high favorability ratings 2 years ago when he got fired. They've definitely been shot. Like, he's down to 35% favorable, 44% unfavorable. But mostly that's driven by Democrats hating him a lot more, and the Republicans still kind of like him. He's 60-22 among Republicans. Like, that's pretty decent. Like, he's not Mother Teresa, but they certainly don't hate him. But we asked this other question, agree or disagree, that Tucker Carlson's the most dangerous anti-Semite in America, and he's chosen to take on the mantle of leader of a modern-day Hitler Youth. And people agree 38-33, but like only 31% of Republicans agree, 47% disagree. But the weird thing is about this is, first off, Tucker is liked better by the younger people. So he is appealing to this under 50 crowd. And I think personally, Tucker's Nick Fuentes thing was probably a troll to get attention of the boomer right, in order to, I don't know, stir the pot or whatever his intention was. But what's kind of wild, this is why I say, I talked about the strong man. I talked about, of the people who say they have a favorable impression of Tucker Carlson, 35% of them also agree that he's a dangerous anti-Semite. And so you have this, that equates to like 12% of the electorate, 20 million people who are like, oh, I like Tucker. Yeah, he's anti-Semitic. He's the Hitler Youth.
Wow, that's interesting.
It is, and unfortunately, I don't have a benchmark from a month ago, But the way, like, it was a massive fight, the biggest fight I've ever seen on Twitter, way bigger than the H-1B fight back in December,
Yeah.
And it was like the Streisand effect, guys, the Streisand effect guy. Now Nick Fuentes is the face of the hard right movement.
Yeah.
Because he didn't make, these people are not all groypers. There's maybe, I don't know, there's 100, 200,000 groypers. But angry young men have been the core of Trump support going back all the way to the 4chan days. And there's millions of these people, and they don't identify as groypers, but more people watch Nick Fuentes than watch Ben Shapiro now by a lot. And he's on a channel that's 14 times smaller. And those are people that are Trump supporters. They have been around. They just don't feel like their needs are being met by this agenda or this platform because it's not being aggressive enough.
Absolutely, and I'm one of them. Can you stay on for longer? Can you do the whole hour with us?
Oh, sure.
Okay, fantastic. All right, we'll be right back in just a second with Mark Mitchell, RasmussenReports.com. I think that's right. And tell me your Twitter account. I mislaid my paper here. Oh, at Honest Pollster.
Honest Pollster.
At Honest Pollster. Thank you. I'm sorry. I just want to send people to it. At Honest Pollster on X, RasmussenReports.com. When we get back on the other side, we'll talk about maybe what Trump could do, if it's even possible, if it's a foregone conclusion now, pack it up. The midterms are over already. I doubt that's the case. We'll talk about what needs to be done to win back some of the support that he's lost over the last 9 or 10 months or so. Stay with us, folks. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is The War Room. My guest is Mark Mitchell at Honest Pollster on X. He runs RasmussenReports.com, one of the most well-respected polling outlets in the world right now, and you're seeing why. It's because it's the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And that's what we need right now. We need a cold, hard dose of truth. And the responses that you got. So what you had a name for your was it sort of an open call? Just send me your opinions. What did you call it?
Well, they started sending me their opinions first, and it's like, like a couple days ago, I was like, oh, we got a whole lot of Gen Z comments, and I was like, you know what, I see you guys. So I sent them a SpongeBob meme, and everybody liked that. So I sent them some Tide Pods too, and then they just started, writing to me. So I'm like, you know what? Last night I was, I was just a little bit shell shocked. So I sat down and, spent a couple hours doing this. I had myself natty daddy and was up till 2:30, and put out a whole bunch of them. I got more, so I guess I'll do it tonight. I don't want to make it like a thing. I guess there's diminishing returns here, but like people are frustrated because they have nowhere to go. And it's like, well, normally what should happen is like, okay, well, this is the Republican Party and you voted for a Republican and you have Republicans all around you. So go to your local Republican chapter, become a precinct committee man, blah, 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 blah. We know all this. So the problem is that my efforts to interact with those people and the things that I've heard from the MAGA grassroots folks that also deal with those people all day long is that, there are a few good ones, but in general, the entire establishment Republican Party is basically just a major donor harvesting operation, and that a lot of candidates don't even care if they win or not because they get, like donor money and matching funds, and the consultants get rich, and then you can cut some deals behind the scenes, and then this is just what it seems like. And I look at, like, for instance, New Jersey again, and it's like, okay, you did it. You had people volunteer. You had grassroots people. 100% agree with that. But did the National Republican Party really get that involved? And did Jack do everything he really could have? Like the polling said that he probably should have gotten Trump out for a rally. Why didn't Trump come? Those kind of things. And it's like, okay, he's run 3 times now. And he didn't really have a platform at all. Like, it was easy to look at the 2024 election and say, 2 million people turned out for Trump. That's unlike anything New Jersey's ever seen. How did he get those 700,000 people? Who were they? And how do we get them to come back out? And I don't think my feeling, not knowing what happened inside the campaign, is that they didn't really do that. And Mikey Sherrill got 90% of Harris's vote, and Jack Chiarelli got 70% of Trump's vote. And so I think this is a nationwide reality for the Republican Party. I think the exit polling doesn't really show these independents that will give Republicans a chance because Trump's on the ballot, and they're not going to turn out for other Republicans. And the Republican Party isn't incentivized to go after those people because they don't want that big tent. And frankly, I've heard a lot of horror stories about the amount of money that just gets lit on fire to recycle itself back into this big consulting Ouroboros of, it's like, hey, our candidates raise money, like the RNC raises money, the money comes down, they pick the vendor might do direct mailing in an area that's not really effective, but we need to spend the money anyways. Like, that kind of stuff happens. And then also the MAGA candidates just get brutally shut out of the system. Anybody that whistleblows gets redistricted out. It's really designed to keep the status quo out, and the status quo is just, or to keep the status quo in. And the challenge to the status quo is just any platform that will do something. And that's the problem. The Republican Party exists to keep things from happening.
Right. And that's not what we need right now. What we need are very intense things. We need a lot of stuff happening in our favor and to our ends. And I love this because you actually, it's people, they're sort of anonymized. You post their messages and they might describe themselves, but you don't know who they are. And it's just so much more information than you get with a yes or no question. How do you rate, or how do you rank these? You don't get a ton of information there, but with these, you get the thought process and why people are thinking this. So I want to read this one that I thought was another sort of typical one, if not maybe a little bit more verbose than others, because apparently he was a law student. But he says, Zoomer here, 25-year-old that abandoned a constitutional law degree once I realized that only one side cares about the Constitution and loses repeatedly as a result. We voted for a dictator. Processes be damned. Spent too long watching and waiting and eating the Reagan slop that principles would save us, or that we'd feel good as the boot came down on our necks, because we never forsook what really mattered. The position of decline is insurmountable. I will never own a home or be financially able to start a family. Hell, at the rate things are going, myself and many of my similarly aged countrymen who share my political persuasion will end up in prison by the time we hit 2028, assuming Dems regain power. None of us wanted to be this. But Trump needs to know that now, more than ever, is the green light to act with impunity, to ignore the courts, to put that same level of pressure and scrutiny on every single weak, limp-wristed rhino that's sitting on their fat ass collecting a paycheck while my birthright as an American is siphoned to support a worthless, feckless old guard. I mean, brutal but accurate. I feel that way myself personally, and I'm 10 years older than this guy, so I can't imagine the world he grew up in. It must have been so much worse than mine. So again, that sounded very typical to me of a lot of the responses that you got. It's not that people don't care about the Constitution. It's that at this point, it serves as a barrier to success. And the other side does not give a damn about it. So why do we? Right. I get that sentiment a lot.
Yeah, they're missing something that they very much, in my opinion, expected to see and didn't know what it was. Unless the absolute shattering of innocence. This is like a 24, 25-year-old guy, loves the country, was going to go to law school for years to devote himself to the Constitution that he revered. Now he just wants a dictator, and it was all done by the Republican Party. That's where we're at. And it's like, this guy was a Trump supporter and probably still would be a Trump supporter if Trump would give them the agenda what they wanted. But what I think this last election was a referendum on wasn't like the Democrat Party. It wasn't Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris actually convinced almost half the country to vote for her. And a lot of it's because of the Yankees versus Mets effect, and a lot of the lying in the mainstream media. Like, we know why this happens. You're InfoWars. You know the InfoWars, right?
Oh, yes.
But even despite that, even despite the fact that the Democrat Party reveres the government, only 30% of people said they trusted the federal government. So I think this was a referendum on institutional trust because, a lot of people did support the Democrats, but in the back of their mind, they didn't like the COVID authoritarianism. They didn't like weaponization of justice. We were getting numbers like 65, 70% who thought that this was like Banana Republic stuff. They don't like the idea of like corrupted mainstream media or the FBI knocking down the door at Mar-a-Lago. And I think that's how you get to a mistrust of the government. And obviously some Democrats didn't like the idea of Republicans running the government either. But we got to a situation where 53% thought the FBI was Joe Biden's personal Gestapo. 64% think the CIA is feeding talking points to the mainstream media. Just like ridiculous levels of 66% said that cheating was affected the 2020 outcome.
Oh, wow.
So what I think, it got really high. Like people,
that's 60% of all respondents, not just Republicans?
66% of all U.S. likely voters said that they think the 2020 election was affected, outcome was affected by cheating. Wow. Now, some of them are Democrats who thought that Republicans won some states they shouldn't have, and Trump should have done way, like obviously. But that number, what's weird is that number started at 48% and it got up all the way to 66% over a 2-year period of utter ironclad gaslighting, like the ubiquitous front of there is no evidence, don't believe your lying eyes, and the number just kept going up anyways. So they've really kind of lost their ability to do these sustained gaslighting operations. And, mass formation with COVID aside, I don't know how they'll be able to use that again. But so Trump gets into office, and the first thing they see is like, wow, Doge is effective.
Right.
And it's way worse than we thought. And there's dead people in Social Security, and there might not be gold in Fort Knox, and we're going to audit the Fed. And there's a ton of black ops buried in the DOD budget. Like, America got put through that psychological arc and then completely rug pulled, right? And then what we didn't see is like, okay, Trump got his people in. And so we're looking at the FBI. And Kash Patel said he's going to burn it down and turn it into a museum for the deep state. He said that, right? He said we're going to move cities, we're going to fire all these people. Nothing.
Right.
You can't go from the FBI as Joe Biden's personal Gestapo and just change the head and expect America to all of a sudden trust the FBI. There has been no restoration of trust. There's been no reform. People still, like 41% of people still think the CIA killed Kennedy.
Right.
And it's like, okay, it was 70 years ago, but people still think a federal agency killed the president. Like, don't we have to like hug that out? And you see it across the board. Like, we were talking about how IRS got weaponized against Americans. Americans haven't been given a root cause and corrective action there. They haven't gone through. So none of this. Not a single thing. Not on Epstein, not on the election, not on not pharma. 56% of voters think that the vaccine is killing a significant number of Americans.
Wow.
And now we have RFK in place. You haven't heard anything. Meanwhile, Pfizer's raking in record profits. You know why? It's probably safe to assume there's still regulatory capture, because if they were going to do something, we probably would have heard about it. So again, that's why I think Epstein was such a huge thing. Everybody called me a panican. I lost like 3,000 followers.
Right.
But it's like, well, no, this is the first most obvious way that Trump is telling you there's going to be no accountability.
Right.
And I hope there is. I hear behind the scenes there might be some election integrity stuff. I don't know. But like 16% of America agreed with Pam Bondi that the case was closed.
Wow.
And I sent that in, and they saw it. And then Trump the next day is like attacking his followers. So you can't brute force public opinion. You can't. And they're trying to. I don't understand how they don't know this. It was a really big deal for 10 years. 10 years, the right thought that Bill Clinton was down there doing stuff. And then it's like, oh, nothing to see here. Oh, no, and Kash comes out in front of Congress, and it's like, okay, they probably have like non-prosecution agreements or something like that. I don't know. You have an FBI. It's $11 billion a year. Are you going to use it? Oh, there's no evidence. Well, we still know who the people were. You could interview them. I'm old enough to remember what like a Form 302 is. You know what I mean? Like so it just doesn't add up. And those are my personal questions, but other people had questions. And then I said that this is not going to go away. You gave the Democrats a gift. And it's like every week you go on Reddit and you see like a whole bunch of new Epstein posts. And again, it'll be the very first thing that Democrats do when they get control of Congress. In the 120th Congress, Adam Schiff's going to run an Epstein commission. And it's going to be like, a whole bunch of fake evidence probably. It's going to be a complete show trial. Rachel Maddow is going to come back on MSNBC, and MSNBC is going to be a thing again to like go over. I just can't. Like, I'm so tired of this. It's like,
yeah, it's like exhausting. It's like, what do we have to do? And this is kind of the thing. Yesterday I was covering comedian Bill Burr. He's getting a lot of crap because he went to Saudi Arabia and did this thing for Riyadh, and all of his fans are. And he had this response that I was relating to other stuff, because he's going, all these people online, they're being tricked into hating me, basically. He's going, the people who run the social media, their algorithms are making people hate me. And I was relating it to like what the pro-Zionist right is doing, where they're going, the approval rating for Israel is going down. It must be the Nazis. Let's silence everybody. Yeah. And it's like, we're trying not to do that. We're not blaming the other side. This is our failure. The Republican Party is failing right now, and we don't have anybody to blame but ourselves, or them, the people on Capitol Hill that aren't listening to us. But this is not a psyop that's making people hate Republicans. They have very valid and good reasons for distrusting the current Trump administration, and you're not going to fix that distrust by downplaying or disregarding the outrage that people are feeling.
Yeah, 100% agree with you. And I think, I would propose a thought exercise to people. Like, again, let's forget about Nick Fuentes and Tucker Carlson. It's like, I'm not a trained condemnation monkey. Like I said that I don't like the things that Nick said, but I don't need to say it on demand for you in order to make you feel better about me.
Right.
But let's forget that and look at. I would submit to you Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Exhibit A, look at like the speeches of Randy Fine and Ted Cruz at the Republican Jewish Coalition,
Yep.
and then look at the way that J.D. Vance spoke at the Turning Point USA event he did. And in my opinion, he laid out a very graceful path towards a reasonable America First agenda that people could get behind. Like, he didn't talk about everything because he wasn't asked those questions, but he talked about a lot of like reasonable, intelligent stuff. Like, yes, America's interests should come first, but yes, we can also have allies.
Yep.
Yes, it's reasonable for you to care about your culture and want to live around people who share something in common with you. Yeah, like that's wild.
Right.
Can you imagine that? Like, yes, it's okay to be Christian and want to convert somebody. Like, that was wild too.
Yeah.
I think a lot of Republicans would not agree with those kind of statements, or at least not say them publicly, because it would upset folks and because of the cowardice. And so I thought that was very brave. He spoke off the cuff, presented Americans a very authentic. This is the part that the establishment Republicans don't get. Authenticity is the name of the game. That's your new political capital. They will spot you in a second if you flip-flop on something or lied, and you will get brutally ratioed. Yeah. And it's not as true on the left because they are very able to, like, you know, apply unearned mental conformity, let's just say, right? But the right wants the truth. They want order and justice and the truth and a return to an America that was stolen from them. Quite frankly, you know, the Democrats flooded the border. Well, you know, they had a little help. They flooded the border recently, and their network of NGOs like really fanned the flames of that. But the right mostly gave everybody these jobs to the rest of the world. Like, that's what the right did. The right was global welfare. The left was, like, you know, that's what it is, right? Okay, there was NAFTA and stuff like that, but it's like one of the ones that was really fascinating that I read was this guy. And I remember you were talking about Ben Shapiro and how he said, well, you have to move to a different part of the country. And, you know, all my family like grew up in the same spot. There was a guy very much like that. And he was really upset that he was the first generation of his family, going back lots of generations, that wasn't able to raise his kids in the same area because it was a blue state, insanely ridiculously high money. And, you know, there's all kinds of things leading to that, right? We're taking like oligarch money and laundering it here. Yep. You know, through the real estate. So all kinds of things that lead to that. And he was really upset. Like, my kids won't be around my family for the first time ever. And Ben Shapiro is like kind of okay with that, but it's not a good thing. Like, America is being changed by these forces, and there is no recourse. Republican Party is not going to talk about that. You know where that guy moved? He moved to a hollowed out ghost town that was created by the Republican Party that offshored these jobs. Right. Let's acknowledge, in my opinion, I think the right has a very big role to play in woke, because this idea of globalization that created this global homo value set came from people who were just trying to cut costs. They wanted to offshore things. They wanted it cheaper. They wanted a higher profit. And so there's this aspect of like unchecked and unfettered capitalism. And I'm a capitalist. I really am. But I think what a capitalist society needs, is a principled and independent, brutally effective government that's willing to block and tackle for the best interests of the society. And I think that includes paying attention to like wealth inequality measures. Well, and I've only heard one human in politics recently talk about wealth inequality, J.D. Vance. He's the only one who, I think, as far as I know, it's on his radar. And like, why wouldn't you hang that on your wall in the White House? That's the economy that people are demanding.
Yeah, well, and
you want Zoomers to be able to, yeah.
Well, it's just odd how J.D. Vance is like the one outlier on all of these, and he's dead on. He's the right one, but he's often the only one saying these things. And, you know, when you look at in the past how empires fall or nations collapse, the one thing they always share is inequality. I mean, French Revolution, Spanish Revolution, the Spanish Revolution, ancient Rome, every single one of them, they've got a bunch of different things happening, but they all share inequality. So if you're concerned about America collapsing, wealth inequality is something you have to be concerned with. And again, the problem is the socialists are out there making arguments, showing care to the people that are struggling financially, even if they're scumbags, even if they're scam artists, even if their ideas will just make everybody poor. We all recognize that. But nobody's making the other argument, which is we have to have the American government. The reason the American government exists is to counteract forces that individuals cannot take on. I can't take on a corporation, but that's what my government is for. It's supposed to step in on my behalf and stop them. And that is pure Americana. That's Teddy Roosevelt, busting the trusts. There's nothing socialist about that, but it's almost like the fear of socialism has Republicans afraid to do anything that's positive with the government that will help the American people. How do we get over that fear that I think is really preventing a lot of good things happening?
Well, first off, the polling on antitrust is off the charts. Off the charts. And the administration knows it, and the administration has announced at least one case. I don't know the others, but I know that there are others potentially coming where they're going to go after, and I have to applaud it. Yeah. Everybody on earth hates big tech, and I made a tweet today like, why haven't we heard about big tech being socked in the nose? And I was told, well, keep an eye out on that. So I love that. It's like, but we could have telegraphed that, and it's like, okay, well, maybe that gives Google a chance to, or whatever. Like, I don't know, right? But that's an important one because it will be symbolic and it will have an impact. And, there's a whole lot more of that. And we'll see how it plays out. But like this is the problem. And one of the measures I was looking at, I think that really shows how bad it's been hollowed out. And it comes back, in my opinion, the financial crisis, is that you can go on FRED, the Federal Reserve Data Board, and set up total government per capita debt divided by median real income. So that ratio tells you, like, if you split all the debt up among Americans and then pick the average middle American, how much of their own portion of the debt would they be able to pay off? And that ratio was, for a long time, up until about 2005, 0.5%. And then all of a sudden, after the financial crisis, it skyrocketed. So there's something very specific happened there when the Republican and Democrat Party joined hands and gave us a major bipartisan crisis resolution bill and socialized banking losses. And this was on top of a burgeoning H-1B situation. And that number got up to 2.5. Wow. 2.5x, 5 times worse than it just was 20 years ago. So that's like a hopeless amount of debt for your average American to be able to pay off. And if you have your producers put that median home price chart, I think it's pretty astounding how that like really hockey sticks at the end in a way where it's like, if you look at it,
this might be a different one. This is the average home buyer age.
Yeah. So the one where it's like showing a median age of home buyers over time, and also the first time home buyers, those numbers are hockey sticking up at the end. There's something really different about the last 4 or 5 years, specifically in the housing market, which has such an impact. And also, I think you'd find the same kind of thing in healthcare, where costs are just spiraling to the point where it's like, it's unsustainable if it continues, and it's unsustainable if it doesn't. Right. And it's like, well, what side of the knife edge do we fall down on? I don't know. We're not going to be able to survive this much hollowing out of the younger generation, and the problem's only getting worse. One of the charts showed that not the first-time home buyer, but the average home buyer, the median age in the last 20 years went from 39 to 59.
And that's 20 years. So it's the same people. It's the same people.
The same people buying the houses.
Wow.
Yep. And so that trend's going to continue, which means that younger generations are going to increasingly be shut out. And, the boomers are probably like lying about primary residence and they're getting their Airbnbs and they're trading their stocks and stuff like that. And meanwhile, you're going to have like the younger generations paying the taxes for those people to get multiple rounds of chemo in their super posh, like, retirement villages. It's really dark. Yeah. You probably know this. Are you a millennial or a Gen Z?
I'm a millennial. 35.
Yeah. You know what that meme they have, right, from 4chan?
Which one?
The day of the pillow.
Yes. Yeah. The boomers.
That's the chart I'm talking about right there. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot of resentment there, and I think it's well placed. And again, it's like, okay, there's all this debt. And then we look around and we go, well, what do we have for it? We wage all these wars overseas. We spend all these hundreds of billions of dollars. What do we get for it? What is the return on that investment we're making? Because my life is significantly worse. And then it gets into just the idea that, like, if you do things the right way, you're an idiot. Everybody who's cutting corners, everybody who's a scumbag, thief, liar, criminal gets everything they want. If you keep your head down and study and get a good degree, you're an idiot because you're just going to go on the unemployment line like everybody else. So they're literally disincentivizing virtue.
100%. And this is very big in the healthcare industry. I know our time's limited, but I'll say, like, if we had capped Medicare and Medicaid at the percent of GDP it was in 1970, we would only have like less than 20 trillion in debt right now. And we spent a lot of money turning healthcare into the #1 employer in almost every state in America. And what did we get out of it? Like a couple of years of life extension, but it was really costly because it pretty much destroyed the republic. And that's one of the things that we could be fixing right now, changing the way insurance bills, changing the regulatory environment, punching back at these people that have been captured by industry. And unfortunately, this is one of the most powerful industries. It pays for 25% of all news advertising, the pharmaceutical industry. So we got to get really busy fast.
Yes, something's got to happen, and it's got to be us to do it, because otherwise it's going to be them to do it. Like, a big change is coming. I would like it to be on our initiative, not theirs. And that's what, is really up for debate right now, is whether, really up for contest, is whether it's us or them. Mark Mitchell, thank you so much for being with us. Honest Pollster on X, RasmussenReports.com. So we got a big hill to climb here.
I can no longer sit back and allow communist infiltration, communist indoctrination, communist subversion.
I wanted to speak about Islam because it's very easy for us to do the classic, and I think that's what they want us to do, divide and conquer. And the problem is that people are confused. They think this is about religion. This is about authoritarian versus a libertarian existence. That top horizontal bar is the lie that we've been told, that there is far left, far right, and in the middle is, democracy. When in fact, what it is it's socialism in the middle. So they've lied to us, and they've made us think that there's this thing called far left, which is supposed to be very different from far right. It's a lie. What is true is that the real, spectrum is from total government to anarchy. And constitutional republic is just slightly below anarchy. It's where we have liberty and freedoms, and we live in Christian countries under the idea that we are given inalienable rights.
Loads of people call me racist for going to these, but I just want to be able to feel safe in my own community, and I just want to be able to walk the streets like my dad and my mum used to without a worry.
Dr. Mukadam, what is the penalty for apostasy?
If it's an Islamic country, then the Sharia is very clear. Apostasy is dealt with the death penalty.
Thank you, that's all I want to hear.
He plays his games. We play ours.
They create this fake paradox of political systems. Is something totalitarian or is it libertarian?
If we start going, Islam, is evil, and they're all, barbaric and cruel, and they're awful to women, and blah, 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 we're just going to get into the divide and conquer. What I think we can differentiate that any religion...
Islam is totalitarian.
Yeah, any religion that's totalitarian, we don't want.
There's no big organized Christian movement that's going to put beekeeper suits on women and enslave them and do all this. Exactly. So we have to recognize, where is the real totalitarianism in religion right now? It's Islam.
Have you ever had a single moment's thought about my responsibilities? Have you ever thought for a single solitary moment about my responsibilities to my employers?
This is a concerted effort by a group of human beings who are authoritarian, who wish to conquer the entire planet. What we're talking about here is a lower frequency of existence. And we can all imagine, like, when the Aztecs would be like sacrificing people and the Druids were sacrificing little children. These are low states of consciousness. I mean, murdering people in order to placate some vicious god.
Allah promotes violence against the Jews, against the Christians, against the kafir, the unbeliever, openly. Allah himself is telling the Muslim people to go and kill them with violence. And it's like you're doing favor to God. Like you're doing, a supernatural, amazing thing by killing your enemies. And the exact opposite is in the Bible, where Jesus comes, Isa comes and says, forgive your enemies, love them, bless them, take care of your enemies. So it's such a huge contrast.
The West goes to empower women, and then somehow the globalists get women to double back to go to the most Stone Age thing there is.
According to the Sharia again, when it comes to women, there must be a hole dug in the earth, in the ground, and she must be covered up to the half of the body.
So know this, that Islam will enter every house. Every house.
If we fail to acknowledge that what we're witnessing with our eyes, what we're hearing when they say, you know, Muslim, we're going to take over America, everybody will be a Muslim, we'll be in every home. The reason why I keep banging on about this is because I want to save us from falling into the trap of divide and conquer. I know that there has to be Muslims out there that understand what I'm saying, that move to America precisely because of the libertarian construction of the American society. Everything that Christ said to us, it's all about love. And love ultimately is the act of wisdom to know that if somebody is behaving terribly, you can't counteract it by being equally terrible.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is The War Room, Infowars.com, banned.video. Please make sure you're following us on X. And I mean that. Make sure you're following us because X is messing with things. I was watching in real time as my follower count was going up and then down the other day. They will remove you if you aren't careful. So make sure you're following us. I'm at Harrison H. Smith, at Infowars, at War Room Show, at Real Alex Jones, and at AJN Live. So you can make sure to be following us and be getting our dispatches when whatever happens to this place eventually occurs. Whenever we're kicked out of the building and need to get in contact with you, make sure you're following us on X. And please do support us at thealexjonesstore.com. You only have a little under 48 hours to take advantage of this massive sale on Shilajit gummies. Buy one, get one free, and any order gets a free hat, the Black on Black Infowars hat, at thealexjonesstore.com. Go to thealexjonesstore.com/Harrison to let them know who sent you. Keep us on the air and in the fight, and you get a free hat. It's a win-win-win-win-win-win-win. It's a 1080 win, as I like to say. And with that, I'm very happy to welcome my guest, Seamus Coughlin, freedomtunes.com, twistedplots.com. He's just 3 days away from ending the fundraising for a new full-length show, Twisted Plots. Twistedplots.com is where you can go to donate to that and make sure that they get over the finish line. How's the fundraising been going, Seamus?
It's been going really, really well. And firstly, when I began the campaign, I did your show, and I knew that before it ended, I had to come back here. We had such an awesome conversation, and there were like 50 different trains of thought that I went off on for every single thing that you said. So yes. I know this is going to be a good conversation. It's a question of whittling things down. I also want to mention my camera, it died on me. So as you can see right now, I'm talking to my phone and it's tilted in a way where it's lower than me. This was not on purpose so that you could all feel I was lording over you or something. The only thing available to me to prop my phone up gives us this low angle shot. But listen, it's great to be back. Fundraising's been going phenomenal. We're pretty close to 75% here. So we're getting near that finish line, and we've been picking up a lot of momentum. We picked up a huge amount of money today, and we just posted another update and another YouTube cartoon that people are going to really enjoy if they want to check that out at Freedom Tunes, and so that almost always comes along with a boost. So we're very excited. We are within sight of the finish line. We're very excited to get there. We need your help. Go to twistedplots.com and support us. You'll get access to our pilot episode, and you will be helping to build the future of entertainment. We live in unprecedented times because throughout all of history, people have internalized their values and developed their values primarily through story. And today, we have the most robust technological infrastructure for delivering story that has ever existed in all of history. And it's completely owned and controlled by people who hate us and hate our way of life and have been slowly chipping away at it through propaganda and with propaganda over the course of decades. We have to fight back because a civilization cannot survive if the only people telling stories in that civilization want it to die. I started Freedom Tunes when I was 19 years old because I knew we needed to change this culture and push back against the radical left and the authoritarians and the horrible things that they were doing to this country and the horrible things they were doing to marginalize Christianity and Catholicism and the Christian faith. Now, after 11 years, over 1 million subscribers, over 290 million views, over 600 animated videos, I believe it's time for us to make a full-length show. So we've only got about 3 days left to complete our funding. We cannot do it without your help. Go over to twistedplots.com. Help us to destroy the left's monopoly on entertainment and make something good and solid and entertaining that promotes good right-wing values instead of nihilistic left-wing nonsense.
And does it in a way that doesn't beat you over the head with it, right? And
Amen.
This is something we got into last time, that conservatives have a problem when we create media. We want to be explicit. And you know,
yes,
I'm not knocking people who want to make a movie about abortion or something like that, but that's not the way Hollywood did it. That's not the way the liberals do it. You make a compelling, good, funny, dramatic, whatever it is, story. And informing that story are the values that you try to put across. So do you consciously do that? Do you consciously try to avoid preaching in your cartoons?
Yes, actually. So in the first script that we wrote for the first episode of Twisted Plots, the first one I put to paper, I sent the script around to my animation team after I was finished writing it. And Caleb, my right-hand man, he kind of pointed out that there was a particular line in it that he said made him feel preached at, and he thought that people watching would see and feel as if they had been preached at. And so I removed it. I modified it. It's very, very important that people can just sit there and be entertained. I'm not sure. Did we talk about Judd Apatow last time that I was here?
I don't think so.
All right. He does this perfectly. He's on the other side. But if you look at a film like Knocked Up or 40-Year-Old Virgin, which you shouldn't watch, a lot of pornographic content in there. I was young when I saw those films. But what he does, for example, in Knocked Up is he tells this story, which on paper is actually kind of wholesome. Two young kids, they're in their early 20s. They make a mistake. They have sex outside of marriage. The woman gets pregnant. But ultimately, it's a story where the man steps up, takes responsibility, and marries her. So on its face, that's actually a good story. Of course, what they do is they throw pornographic moments in the film. And also, they make it clear through the dialogue that the writers of the film and the people creating it would have morally sanctioned the titular characters or the main characters getting an abortion.
Right.
So Judd Apatow does this thing where he tells a story where there's actually a wholesome through line, but then he throws his morality in. He didn't make a movie where they go get an abortion because people wouldn't watch that. That wouldn't be a good or interesting film. It wouldn't speak to that thing that we need to have spoken to us when we're consuming story, when we're hearing narratives. And so it wouldn't have promoted his worldview. Now, I'm not arguing Judd Apatow made Knocked Up because he wanted to make a pro-abortion film or anything like that. I think it was a story that he wanted to tell, but he had to put that element in there to promote his values. And so what we have to do on the right when we're telling stories, when we're making movies, is firstly, we have the luxury of our values being true and pro-human. They're genuinely pro-human. So our stories will naturally speak to people in a way that satisfies their desire for story and their desire for adventure and their desire for truth, beauty, and goodness. So we don't actually need to sprinkle these additional little things in there that left-wing artists and authors need to in order to get their worldview across. Ultimately, the best the left can hope for in telling a story is telling a right-wing or traditional story and then sprinkling their insidious little talking points in there, or putting pornographic imagery in there, making people view sex more flippantly. Or similarly, they can also make films that are frankly not very good in moral quality, but very sentimental. And so they make you feel emotionally for people making bad decisions, so you will sanction the bad decisions. We can tell stories in a much more honest way on the right. And unfortunately, instead, we tell these insane ham-fisted stories that don't entertain people. I'm here to change that. I'm here to fix that. Because not only is it important for us to be able to tell stories that are good, not only is it important for entertainment to be right-wing, but that entertainment needs to be grassroots. It needs to be made by people who have experience in the industry doing these things. And it needs to be made by people who, above all, are going to ensure that they're telling a good, funny story instead of beating you over the head with their message.
Yeah, and you've got the track record. I was singing your praises last time, and I'll double down on that because Freedom Tunes has been just solid content.
Thank you.
I can't think of a miss, out of all the videos. You come out with a lot. I mean, is it weekly? It's bi-weekly. I mean, you're coming out with a lot of videos.
Yeah, at least once a week, and we've done a couple this week actually.
I noticed that because I was going through to check out which ones you've done since you were last on. And I was like, oh my God, there's like dozens. It's you've got the work ethic, you've got the content there so people can look at it and go, all right, this is a guy I would trust to make something good. It's not, some Kickstarter from an anonymous account saying, trust me, I'll make a show. No, he's got the goods to back it up. And what you're saying about, the way stories are told reminds me of, Parks and Recreation has the great libertarian character, Ron.
Yes.
And he's great and he's funny and it's like a good representation of libertarianism where maybe they poke fun at it, but it's still, the memes and everything. It's great. But there's one episode where you think that it's sort of a pro-libertarian episode because this little girl comes to the Parks and Recreation office to do a school project on what the government does. And Ron, takes her and just basically tells her the government is horrible and shouldn't do anything. And so I was actually having a discussion with my wife about this years ago when we first watched it. And she was like, this is great. It's like pro-libertarian propaganda. But I'm like, pay attention, because at the last scene, the last part of the story is the little girl comes back and goes, I got a 0 on my paper. Ron, I have to redo it. And they go, oh, okay, you're right. Let's say why the government is good. And, at the end of the day, even though it sort of might seem like it's promoting libertarianism, really it's the butt of all the jokes. And at the end of it, they have to sort of shamefacedly admit, yeah, okay, we're kind of stupid and wrong, actually. And so, they are really sophisticated with how they play with these concepts and how they can, it looks like it's positive, but really the message that's being embedded in people's minds is a negative one. It's sophisticated stuff, man. They really think about this when they do it.
But the reason they need to do that with a character like Ron Swanson is because they're incapable of writing him the way that they actually want him to be written, and they're incapable of having him be received by the audience the way that they intended. This is a huge issue for left-wing satirists, is they'll create these characters who are intended to lampoon a right-wing way of looking at the world or a traditional way of looking at the world, and the audience always ends up loving that character and hating whichever character is supposed to be the liberal mouthpiece. So you see this virtually anytime they try to satirize the right, most famously with All in the Family and Archie Bunker. Even though, yes, some of the things he said were out of control and people didn't fully agree with them, they still at the very least liked that there was a character who spoke boldly on politically incorrect topics. And above all, he did say things that the audience did agree with, and they knew they weren't allowed to believe. And so seeing him express it was cathartic. That's not really what the writers intended. The entire purpose was to make fun of his way of looking at the world. But that never works out for them, right? And so this is not to bring up a sore subject, because I know this comes up on Twitter like every other week, but this is why there's always this debate over Starship Troopers. Is Starship Troopers effective satire? Well, people have an innate sense of truth, beauty, and goodness. And even if you're trying to be a smart aleck about it and satirize the idea of honor and duty and young people fighting to save the world, and their opponents are these disgusting insects, you calling those young people fascist actually is not going to be enough to override the visceral repulsion that the audience is going to feel for the brain-sucking insect that kills Xander at the end. Spoiler alert. So they really can't speak a human language because their ideology doesn't give them the tools to. Their ideology seeks to usurp and overwrite human nature. It's deeply unnatural, and that's why they can't tell good stories. That's why they actually need to be in control of the storytelling infrastructure in order to brainwash people, because when it's a level playing field, people will gravitate towards the stories that are more traditional. And so what we're doing with Twisted Plots is I'm telling stories that I firmly believe are original and interesting and zany and funny and will entertain you, but at the core is a very traditional message. And I didn't have to work overtime to try to fit a traditional message into the stories. If you're telling a good story and your goal is not to propagandize, usually traditional message just naturally comes out, because stories are written in our hearts ultimately.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I didn't want you to stop. Sorry, I was just Listen, sighing along in agreement.
TwistedPlots.com, baby.
No, you're exactly right. And I want to talk about, change the subject a little bit, but I know this is something that you're on. Banned books. Can we talk about the banned books phenomenon? Because this is cracking me up, and I was seeing it on your feed, but I was seeing it all over the place. Is this phenomenon of the supposed banned books that are bestsellers and available at every bookstore and are being shoved down your throat constantly? But it sort of ties into when the left tells good stories, it's when they are stories of the underdog sort of fighting back against a power structure.
Yes.
Because that is compelling. That is, there's something human about that. Not giving up even when the forces arrayed against you are so powerful. And they can tell that story, but it rings hollow, or there's something perverted about it when they are the power structure, but they're still acting like they're not. They're still acting like they're the rebels. There's something there, because that's a very compelling thing that they do in their narrative. It's almost always the central point of their narrative is, the downtrodden, disrespected minority, shows the majority what's up, and everybody changes their mind because they're so smart. That's a very compelling thing. And that's a very good like story hook that they always tend to put in their stories, because people they like when the underdog wins. They like when the big bad power structure gets destroyed. It's just in our situation, the left is the big bad power structure, but they constantly remind us that they're the underdogs that they should be rooting for. And I think the banned book phenomenon is very emblematic of that.
Yeah, exactly. They have to manufacture an underdog status for themselves, because in every heresy, there's a kernel of truth. And the reality is the only thing about the left that genuinely does appeal to any part of the human condition is, as you said, sympathy for the downtrodden. Now, of course, the way the left expresses that is by expecting us to believe that these people are perfect, never do anything wrong. And also, again, by expecting us to believe that they're downtrodden when they control virtually every institution in the entire country and, frankly, the globe. So it falls flat to any critical viewer, and people are really getting exhausted with the tropes. But ultimately, I think you're right. That's one of the few stories that they do have, is this underdog tale. Now, even when they try to tell the underdog tale, they basically side with the most powerful group of people who are less powerful when compared to like the quote unquote colonizing white force. So if you look at even Star Wars, for example, George Lucas said that he modeled the rebellion off of the Viet Cong. Now you can say, oh, there were these horrible white Americans going to Vietnam and hurting these people. And listen, I agree that the Vietnam War was not a good one. However, the Viet Cong were like murdering Catholic school children. They were not these bold rebels trying to push back against the bad system.
They weren't the Ewoks.
Also, when you look at when you look at the narrative around Columbus as well, right? The Mesoamericans are the underdog. It's like, well, they weren't the underdog to the people who they were literally hunting down and committing like an actual genocide against and flaying alive and chopping their heads off atop their pyramids for blood sacrifices. So they'll actually frame groups of people who aren't victims as victims, like you said. And then they'll try to get you to sympathize with them. But that's one of their most common tricks. And you're right. It's the kind of the only trope that they have.
Yeah, and it's compelling because, again, they recognize the power of narrative. And I think we got into this a little bit last time you were on. But this idea of the narrative war, sort of on top of the information war, is the narrative war. And that the right kind of struggles to tell the story when really our story is the more compelling one. It's about, order from chaos. It's about, establishing things that matter, about making life worth something. And that is the big difference between like the Mesoamericans and the Europeans arriving, is the Europeans had this story of history and where we stood in it. And of course, it goes back to Christianity. I mean, they were a part of a story that starts with creation and goes through Adam and Eve to the fall, to the resurrection, and where we are in this narrative of humanity, versus the natives here, which, no shade to them, every group of people was at this stage at some point where when you don't have writing, you don't really have history. Everything's just sort of an endless cycle of birth, death, no meaning to it, no arc, no trajectory, just sort of a timeless milieu of just endless repetition. And so it, like narrative, it's not just about telling a story to entertain. It's like where we are, our place in the world, what motivates us, what compels us to do anything really. Like, I'm a father because I want to like perpetuate the race that I'm a part of that's achieved so much. And it's like I've been given so much. I feel this burden of responsibility to pass it on to somebody else. And if you're just told that like, nah, everything's material, you're born, you pleasure yourself, and then you die, and that's all there is, you come out with a very different mindset that leads to very different behavior. So understanding the narrative is more than about like where we are at this moment and the narrative of Trump or the narrative of America. It's like the narrative of humanity is one that we're losing grip on, I feel.
I think you're absolutely right. And it's important to remember that these groups of people who were colonized, even though you'll be told by Howard Zinn and basically every single leftist who tries to analyze the issue historically that they were forcibly converted, very many tribes of natives converted to Catholicism because they recognized the truth in it. St. Junipero Serra converted many. And so we're sold, again, this idea that these beliefs were like innate to this group of people and then they couldn't adopt anything else. And so the white man forced it onto them. And aren't we so evil for giving them a different story? When, as you mentioned, the story that we get from Christianity is a beautiful one. Every human is made in God's image and likeness. All of us are descended from two parents, and we're all fallen, but we also have traits about us that are positive. And God created many different groups of people because he loves variety and finds that to be beautiful. You look at the way the world is today, and of course we should celebrate every single group of people on the planet except for white people. White people are bad. And then furthermore, diversity is our strength, but again, it's like only strength, our strength in certain contexts. And there's a whole set of rabbit holes we could go down there. But ultimately, the reason this has happened is because we have been sold a meme, and we've been living a series of stories for the past several decades that are good stories in a certain sense, but over applied. So this also happens where you can have truth that's mapped onto things in a way that isn't appropriate. So you mentioned the idea of the underdog story. Yeah, that's true. And we believe that story when we hear it, and for good reason. But you can start mapping that onto things where it doesn't make sense. One really good explanation I heard from a brilliant scientist on one of the flaws with the Darwinian model of natural selection that we're so widely taught is it takes a story, it takes a theory which works on a small scale, and it attempts to over-apply it. So for example, creatures adapting to their environment with successive generations because they change slightly over time, that is something that we can see at the microbiological level. That's a good story. When you take that and over-apply it, you get, oh, well, all life on Earth came from a single cell that emerged from a pile of goo in this chemical soup. You end up with these absurdities. Similarly, with capitalism, with a free market, you start with the story of free trade. Again, good story and a true story, an important story for us to hold to. But then when you over-apply that, you end up with an unfettered system where a small minority ends up with all of the property and power. Yeah. Similarly, when it comes to having a social safety net, helping the poor, good story there. You over-apply that, and you also add resentment towards the wealthy. You end up with like a quasi-communist narrative. So it's good to recognize the kernel of truth in some of these stories, even when they are over-applied.
Yeah, that's extremely interesting. I completely understand what you mean with things like evolution. I mean, there's kind of a lot of them. I'm thinking of other things that connect to that same concept. And capitalism, I think, is a particularly important one for the way things are going right now. And that, and this is actually great because the argument I keep making is, the socialists have the argument. It's that capitalism is evil, and they're going to come along and take from the evil billionaires and give to the people. And it's a lie, obviously. It's ridiculous, and every time they try it, it's a horrific failure. But that doesn't mean it's not compelling. Whereas the capitalists in this country aren't really even making an argument. They aren't even, which I would say the argument is all of these globalist organizations came in and are deliberately, disadvantaging you, and they're deliberately screwing you over. And as I keep pointing out, I mean, inequality is a bellwether for death, right? It is. If your civilization really starts experiencing inequality, it's not going to last very long. And it doesn't matter whether it's the fall of Rome or the French Revolution. That's a characteristic that they all share. And you can't ignore that. Again, you're talking about narratives. Look at the narratives of history. Look at the way that empires have built up and then collapsed. Recognize, so then you can see patterns, you can recognize it, and we can change our story if we don't want to take that same path. Can you stay with us for the whole hour, Seamus?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Okay, because we're about to go to break, and then we'll come back with more with Seamus Coughlin, Seamus_Coughlin, that's COUGHLIN, freedomtunes.com, twistedplots.com, freedom_tunes on X as well. But Twisted Plots is where you want to go if you want to get this guy to make a full-length show. There's one episode already, and you get to watch it if you donate, right? If you donate, you get early access
at
to
any level. You support us at any level, you will get access to that pilot.
Fantastic. And then many, many more to come. We'll talk more about that on the other side. In the meantime, I do want to remind you, please do go to thealexjonesstore.com, thealexjonesstore.com. You get a free hat with any purchase. Shilajit is buy one, get one free. Those are the Shilajit gummies, one of my favorite products. I always take the Shilajit gummies. I always take the Irish sea moss gummies. They are jam-packed with naturally occurring vitamins and minerals that your body needs and God gives us through these crazy elements. Shilajit and Irish sea moss. Who thought that they would be superfoods that you need? Get them today at thealexjonesstore.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is The War Room. I'm your host, Harrison Smith, Infowars.com, band.video. Please do share those links. And make sure you're visiting freedomtunes.com and twistedplots.com. My guest is Seamus Coughlin. You can follow him on X at Seamus_Coughlin. He is the man behind Freedom Tunes. They've been operating for 11 years, and they're finally making their first full-length honest-to-God television program, which maybe I shouldn't even call it that since TV is so passé. But it's a real show. It's a full show, distinct from Freedom Tunes, but with, all the same characteristics that you recognize. TwistedPlots.com. They only have 3 days left to be funded. So go there today and donate, because I want to watch it. I want to be able to watch it and see it, so we need people donating to it. And Seamus, can you tell us just real quick what the plot of Twisted Plots is? What's the show going to be exactly?
Yeah, happy to. So firstly, it's not television, but it is television length. So
Right.
We've already produced our first episode, and it's 25 minutes long. Again, you guys can watch that if you go over to twistedplots.com. And it's an anthology series. So essentially, each week we tell a completely different, unique story that expresses some kind of edifying value through the jokes and through the story. So think like Twilight Zone or Black Mirror, and the respect that we are exploring a new scenario to get people to think about their moral worldview in every single episode.
There you go. And it'll be funny to boot.
Yes.
And we're sort of talking about like storytelling and narrative and how it impacts people. I think I may have asked you last time, but I don't remember. Have you ever seen the clip of C.S. Lewis and Tolkien? There's a reenactment of it, but it was a real conversation they had about the power of myth. Are you familiar with that?
I'm familiar with this, but I don't think I've ever actually heard it.
Okay, well, we're gonna watch it here if you'll bear with me, because it's absolutely worth it. It's a little bit of a longer clip. Normally, I wouldn't play something this. It's so worth it. So, in case people don't know, Tolkien, J.R.R. Tolkien, author of Lord of the Rings, C.S. Lewis, author of the Narnia books, and a bunch of incredible Christian apologetics. They were together at Cambridge or Oxford University, and they were like best friends. And at the time, C.S. Lewis, who's the younger guy in the video you're about to watch, was a total material atheist. He did not believe in God, had no truck for it, didn't care about it. And it was actually this conversation you're about to watch that really occurred between C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien that first opened up C.S. Lewis to the concept that Christianity might be real. And it was after this that he read the gospel in its original Greek, converted, and became one of the most powerful purveyors of Christianity that the English-speaking world has ever seen. So this is a very important, historically important conversation you're about to see. But it also holds this truth about storytelling that I know Seamus will appreciate. It's a little bit longer of a clip, but I think you'll enjoy it. Lewis and Tolkien debate myths and lies. This is available on YouTube. Let's watch.
Myths are not lies. In fact, they're the very opposite of a lie. Myths convey the essential truth, the primal reality of life itself.
Go on.
Well, you see, we had been duped into using the word myth as being synonymous with a lie, because we have been duped into accepting the first real lie of materialism.
And what is that?
That is the hideous claim that there is no supernatural order to the universe. The materialists have imprisoned us in a world of mere matter, of physical facts, divorced from and devoid of metaphysical truth. Well, I say that they are lying. I say that they are the ones who have come up with a false myth. Their world doesn't exist. It's merely a figment of their imagination. Well, fine. However, there's a problem. The problem is they have convinced us that it is true. They have made us believe that this is all there is. 3 dimensions, 5 senses, 4 walls.
Isn't it?
Most emphatically not. Jack, the 4 walls of materialism are the 4 walls of a prison, and the materialists are our jailers. Don't you see? They've put us in a prison of 4 walls. They don't want us to see what's beyond those walls. They don't want us to discover what lies outside their narrow philosophy. Worse than that, they think that any attempt to escape from the prison is an act of treason.
Well, wouldn't it be an act of treason against rationality to believe otherwise?
Now, Jack, think for a moment. How can it be wrong for a prisoner to think of things that exist other than walls or jailers? Doesn't the fact that the prisoner is able to think of things outside the walls suggest that perhaps things do exist outside the walls? After all, if the prison really is all there is, how are we able to picture things that exist beyond the prison? And this is where myths come in, you see. Myths exist outside the prison. Myths allow us to escape from the prison. or if we are not able to escape. At the very least, they allow us to catch a fleeting but oh so powerful glimpse of the beauty that lies beyond the walls.
But what is it that we're meant to be glimpsing?
Well, don't you see? The truth, Jack. Myths show us a fleeting glimpse of truth itself.
Truth. Truth. What on earth is this truth that you're talking about?
Ah. Quid est veritas? What is truth? I'm glad to see that you've entered into the spirit of the myth, Jack. You've just cast yourself into the role of Pilate.
Pilate? Oh, I see. You're able to believe in the lesser myths because we've already accepted the big one. Once you accept the big myth, the lie of Christ, it's easy to accept the smaller ones. All right, Tollers, I'll play the role of Pilate. I'll wash my hands of the whole nonsense.
Well, Jack, you may be able to wash your hands, but your mind is still muddied. You're not thinking clearly at all, old chap. You're acting as if myths are mere arbitrary inventions of fiction, as if we pull them out of thin air. But what you don't understand is that we make things by the law in which we are made. We create because we are created. Creativity, imagination, is God's imageness in us. We tell stories because God is a storyteller. In fact, he is the storyteller. We tell our stories with words. He tells his story with history. The facts of history are his words, and providence is his storyline.
Are you suggesting that all of history, that everything around us is all part of some divine myth?
We are all part of his story. This very conversation is part of his story.
But perhaps it isn't his story, perhaps it's only your story. How can you know that your story, the story that you believe, the Christian story, is any more real than the other stories?
But don't you see, it isn't my story, it's his story. You're acting as if Christianity is one myth among many. It's not, it's the true myth. Christianity really happened. Jesus really existed, so did Pilate. And yet it is this true story that makes sense of all the other stories. It is the archetype. It is the story in which all the other stories have their source, and the story to which all the other stories point. It has everything. It has catastrophe and its opposite, what we might call eucatastrophe. It has the joy of the happy ending, the sudden joyous turn in the story that is essential to all myths. It has, to a sublime degree, this joy of deliverance, this evangelium, this fleeting glimpse of the real joy, to which all other joys are but a distant echo.
So there you go. I'll pull us out there. I kept thinking about pulling us out, but I just had to let it keep going. So it was a little reenactment, but it was a real conversation that happened that C.S. Lewis wrote down and later credited as being sort of the foot in the door that he needed to become a Christian, and again, become one of the most powerful Christian writers the world has ever seen. So, Seamus, thank you for bearing with it. You kind of look like the actor.
It was awesome. I liked it.
Wasn't that cool? Wasn't that interesting? I really think ever since I saw that, I probably think about it once a day for the last 5 years. And so any excuse I have to play it, I want to introduce it to more people. But there's something very, very true about that, isn't there?
No, well, I completely agree with all of that. Anytime we do anything creative, we are participating in God's creativity, and story is a huge part of that. I've always been a believer that it's not merely the case that material reality exists and therefore there must be a God to create the material things. That's obviously true. But also, material reality seems to unfold in what we would call a story. God is the great author. That's actually where the word authority comes from. It comes from God, the author of all things. So to have authority is to participate in some characteristic of the author, essentially. God gives you authority over this because he's the author, therefore he has control over it. So when it comes to our creative force, we have to be very careful about the way that we use it as well. And Tolkien was incredible because he made Lord of the Rings, and it is just this profoundly Catholic work, which is enjoyed by everybody. Protestants enjoy it, and not just Protestants who are friendly to Catholics, right? And atheists enjoy it because, again, the story just speaks to the true, the good, and the beautiful. And Tolkien wasn't sitting there going, how can I impose my faith on this narrative? He was a true believer, and so certain themes of the faith saturate the story. But it's not as if he sat there and said, I'm going to make this work and it's going to educate people on things. He was just telling a good story. And that's first and foremost what we have to do. Listen, I don't claim to be a Tolkien, right? I didn't sit down and create a different series of languages for every episode of Twisted Plots that I've written.
You should.
But I agree. I probably should. Don't put that pressure on me. But I totally agree with his philosophy. He was an incredible writer. There's a reason his stories have stood the test of time the way that they have. There's a reason that even though we know those stories are fictional, you know, the Lord of the Rings deniers tell us that the Lord of the Rings is a fictional story, allegedly. Yet when we watch them, we still feel as if there's a truth there. We still feel that there's a deep truth in those stories because he's right, ultimately. That myth gets to the foundation of reality. And if your story isn't true, it's not going to resonate with people.
Yeah, and when it is true, it will resonate. Sort of no matter what else you know is involved. It's that people resonate with truth. It's sort of, you know, the quality doesn't matter, the whatever else. It's like truth is truth, and it will always shine through. And then, of course, you know, his point that, you know, all of the stories that resonate with us, they all point back to Jesus. And I mean, it's like absurdly true. When you really start thinking about it, whether it's, you know, Star Wars or Harry Potter. I mean, you know, J.K. Rowling said, if you're a Christian, you know how Harry Potter ends. That's how, you know.
With everyone going to hell for doing witchcraft, that's how it ends. She said, you'll know the real ending. I didn't have to put it in the book because real Christians know.
And then Harry Potter and all of his friends went to hell. The end.
That's right. You know? Yay! Classic Simpsons. So I've been talking about this a bit on different shows that I've been doing, the fact that any good story points to Christ. I'm not sure if the last time I came on here, if I explained the way that I feel Shawshank Redemption is an incredibly well created. Did I discuss that? Can I piggyback off that?
I think I remember you saying that, but yeah, go ahead.
So just to give the short version of it, Stephen King, he's not a Christian conservative, right? And this film was not made with the intention of being a Christian film either. Frank Darabont wasn't setting out to make a Christian narrative. But when you look at the narrative structure of that film and the actual storyline, Andy Dufresne is, spoiler alert here, an innocent man condemned for crimes that he didn't commit. He enters into the realm of the guilty. Everyone around him swears that they're not guilty. He's an object of curiosity for many. Everyone seems to be intrigued with him, from the lowliest prisoner to the highest authorities in the prison. They have this fixation on him. Who is he? What is he doing? He does things that are mysterious to people. He does things that initially make you think that maybe at first his mission is about social justice, like he builds a library for people and he's helping improve the lives of the prisoners. But then when we get to the end of the story, what you find out is that the true work was occurring behind the scenes throughout the course of the film as he tunnels out of the prison and really and truly enters through the narrow gate to his salvation. And it's an important detail to note that throughout the course of the film, he's creating this alternate identity. And he's involved in this scheme to launder money for the warden. And the way that actually even maps onto a Christian understanding is because when he escapes, he puts on, he becomes a new man. He literally has a new identity. He becomes a new man and takes up the treasures that he earned through his suffering during his time in prison. And who is saved with him? the only guilty man in Shawshank. Red is the only person who acknowledges his own guilt throughout the entire film, and he makes it out with Andy. And of course, what's the core message of the film? You need hope. That is a profoundly Christian story, even though it doesn't intend to be one. So people love that movie because it speaks to a truth deep inside of them that they can't escape. And it's so inescapable that people who weren't even trying to tell a Christian story inadvertently did.
Wow. Yeah, I had not thought about Shawshank that deeply before, but I think you're right. I think you're onto something there.
It's a great film.
Yeah, and there's a reason that it's like one of the most beloved films of all time, and like, you know, definitely tops the list of the top 100 movies of all time in a lot of cases. There's something profoundly true about it and deep about it. And again, we were talking about the underdog story, right? Who's a bigger underdog than the guy getting nailed to a cross, right? I mean,
amen.
Who's a bigger underdog?
And then rising and then coming back.
Right. It is the ultimate victory of the underdog, and just all of these words: redemption, salvation, suffering. Like, there's something very intrinsic to it because it tells you that the suffering isn't pointless, that there is a point to it, and oftentimes to survive the suffering, all you have to know is that there's a point. And in fact, that's sometimes the only thing that you need. You think, think about how nice our lives are, and yet depression is through the roof, and like, the place where depression doesn't exist is like a foxhole in World War I, right? It's like the worst conditions ever, but people believed they were fighting for something. They were in a war. They had a purpose. They had a meaning. Their suffering had value, and so they endured it, and they didn't even complain. I mean, there's something, again, very deeply, deeply true about this, and Christianity, as far as I'm concerned, is the only religion on earth that reflects the humanity of these characteristics.
I totally agree. Well, one of the horrible things materialism does is it robs us of our ability to suffer. Suffering becomes totally meaningless.
Right.
There's no value to be found in it at all, and we need to try to extinguish it. Well, how has that worked? I mean, the more we've tried to extinguish suffering, the more comfortable we've become, the more miserable we've become.
Right.
We're not capable of doing this.
How crazy is that? It's so true. And it's like, I was thinking about this yesterday, where it's like people have lost the plot. The point of life is to like to achieve certain things, to do certain things, to pass on your bloodline, to meet somebody, to cause, joy to flourish around you. And it's like, in pursuit of the responsibility, you find real joy. In pursuit of pleasure, you abandon joy outright.
That's right.
It's kind of hard to explain, but it's like by taking the surface level pleasure, you abandon the really deep joy that you find by trying to avoid pleasure. Actually, it seems inverted, but like that again is like God telling us this story. It wouldn't be this way if God didn't want it to be this way.
Well, it's interesting because C.S. Lewis actually comments on that. I can't remember the exact way he puts it, so forgive me for butchering this, but he refers to what I remember is like first things and second things. And basically, if you focus on the first things, you get the second things.
Right.
But if you only fixate on the second things, you lose the first thing. So the first thing might be a little bit more arduous, but it gives rise to all sorts of benefits. But if you only focus on trying to reap the benefits without, again, maintaining focus on the first thing, you end up losing the second thing. And that's essentially what we've been trying to do with our cultures, creating as many innovations as we possibly can to strip people of the necessity to do what is necessary to create these more pleasurable or enjoyable states. But in doing so, we rob them of meaning. We've robbed ourselves of meaning. Think about how much more depressed everybody is today than they were in the past. And you can point to the difficulties that existed in life. And this is one of the hilarious things. People will reveal how badly they've missed the point when they're snarky about some of these things, because you'll say people seem to be happier in the past, and they'll go, Redditor here, actually in the past, infant mortality rates were higher, and they didn't have modern medicine, and people didn't have temperature-controlled homes or economic prosperity. It's like, yes, no, I know that, idiot. They were still happier. Why? Why are we so miserable today when there's so much material abundance? That's a serious question we need to explore, because if the materialists are correct, in all that happiness truly is, in the highest fulfillment that we can actually seek is a specific chemical reaction that occurs at the level of the brain and gives rise to the qualitative experience of pleasure or joy or some sense of purpose, then we should have achieved that long ago. Or if we just keep rearranging our prosperous material environment, we should be able to achieve that. And yet, none of us can see any evidence of anything remotely like that occurring. We only seem to be getting more and more miserable. It's not as if life was very miserable in the past, people were extremely miserable, and then our material prosperity increased, and our misery decreased. It seems to be the case that as material prosperity has increased, our spiritual well-being, our sense of fulfillment has actually decreased.
Yeah. No,
and it's not to say, I don't want to come off like a total Luddite. These modern innovations that we have, many of them, they are very good things that can be used for very good reason, and very good reasons. But, obviously, thank goodness we live in a culture, in a civilization where we don't have 50% of all children dying before the age of 5. That's an absolute nightmare. But also the problem is that we don't appreciate it,
exactly.
right? The problem is not that the problem is not that we have these innovations. The problem is not that children aren't dying as babies the way they used to in the past. The problem is that we take it for granted. We don't care.
Yep. And this is such, I'm totally cheapening your very deep and sincere thought here, but this is just what it makes me think of. In elementary school, I was obsessed with the game Baldur's Gate for PC. It's just the best game ever, and I loved it, and I played it constantly. And then I learned how to cheat, and then I learned I could get any item I wanted by typing a few keystrokes. And the game started sucking. And and as a kid, I didn't even realize why. I was just like, why isn't this game fun anymore? And then I decided, I'm going to do another game playthrough, and I'm not going to cheat this time. And it was like, oh, right, this is fun. It's actually having these items isn't fun if you just type a thing on the keyboard. It's fun when you grind out and you really, make your character, and then the character kills somebody and gets the item. Then it's achievement. Again, totally cheapening the very important point you're making, but.
I think that's toxic masculinity. I think that's toxic masculinity, and you shouldn't play those kinds of games.
No, in all seriousness,
you're totally right. As soon as you have the cheat codes, like when you're playing Call of Duty Zombies, you want to get the ray gun, but if you put the cheat in to get all the guns, it's not fun anymore, man. This is lame.
There's something about that, and it's true on a societal level, and it's true on an individual level too. You want to find a miserable person, go find a billionaire. They're miserable. Like I know some of them, and like sometimes the guy who makes the money will be happy, but then his family is just a mess. It's like,
and I'm happy, by the way, I'm happy to take some of that misery from them. If they want to go to twistedplots.com, give me a little bit of that misery so I can get this show made and change the culture. I am so happy to offer up that service.
Absolutely. Make him miserable by going to twistedplots.com. In
all
misery.
Seriousness, this does tie back, because part of the reason we fail to be grateful for the things that we have in our culture, and part of the reason that people, even though they're able to attain immense material prosperity, aren't happy, is because we're not programmed with the right stories. We don't have the right infrastructure mentally for dealing with reality. What I am trying to do with Twisted Plots is tell stories that edify people and help them develop a clearer vision of reality. I also recognize that a civilization cannot exist for very long if all of the people in control of the gatekeeping for what stories are told hate that civilization. Yeah. Our culture is not just disliked by people who are in charge of storytelling and have monopolized this industry, it is hated by them. They've been chipping away at it for decades. I want to save the culture by saving media. If you believe in that, go to twistedplots.com, support the show, but you got to do it before it's too late, okay? We've got 3 days left. We need to get funded in order to be able to make all of the episodes that we want to make for our first season, so that we can add to the culture instead of taking away from it, which is what so much entertainment does, and so that we can send the message to the dominant media culture that people are sick and tired of the garbage that they're feeding them, that they want entertainment to have good values, and that they want it to be grassroots and not produced by multi-billion-dollar conglomerates.
100%. And you know how Hollywood works. You know how this works, guys. Once one movie or one show is successful, you get 15 other, right away. So maybe this will be this won't just be Twisted Plots and Freedom Tunes, making a show. It'll show people, oh, this is the path to success. And then maybe it'll spawn even more. This could be the beginning of a revolution in animated cartoon storytelling. Twistedplots.com, freedomtunes.com, Seamus_Coughlin, that's COUGHLIN, or freedom_tunes on X. 3 days left. Go support them at twistedplots.com. Thank you for being here with us, everybody. And to you as well, Seamus. Thank you so much for coming on.
I'm cutting this critical announcement on the morning of Tuesday, November 11th, 2025, Veterans Day. You have 48 hours flash sale to get 1 bottle of ultramethylene blue capsules or liquid tincture and get the second one free and get a free custom Patriot ball cap at thealexjonesstore.com. We've never done a sale this big. It's a flash sale. I was sitting here this morning about to cut the announcement about the free ball cap to celebrate Veterans Day, not just for our military veterans, but veterans of the info war. And I thought, wait a minute, let's extend the Ultra Methylene Blue sale, even though it's close to selling out. Don't worry, more's coming in a few weeks. So take action now at thealexjonesstore.com and be the reason we're always going to be on the air. Because the globalists are close to shutting down InfoWars, the building, and the website, but not we the people, the info war. We have the Alex Jones Network that Bigley owns. They're the owner of the AlexJonesStore.com, and that's why it's so critical you go there and support the broadcast and get great products at the same time. Victory is all about being aware, standing up, and taking action. And you can't take action in a better way fighting for you and your family's future and our collective liberties than supporting the operation at thealexjonestore.com. So you have 48 hours to buy one bottle of methylene blue, get one free, and the free ball cap right now at thealexjonestore.com. Now again, ladies and gentlemen, we're winning some big battles here. We haven't won the war, and the globalists have been salivating over getting us off the air. They are so ridiculously foolish. We're not going to miss a beat. We're going to be on all the same radio stations, all the same systems. It's going to blow up in their face, bigger than ever. The only missing equation is you continuing to spread the word when we make this move and supporting us at our sponsor, thealexjonestore.com, while getting products that enrich you and your family's lives. The only way you fail is not taking action. And don't forget what Thomas Jefferson said during the Revolutionary War. The only thing that evil men and tyrants need to flourish is that good men do nothing. You're the good men and women. Take action now. Support the tip of the spear, thealexjonestore.com, and I salute you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you for keeping me and my crew in the fight.